Good evening, everybody. I now call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority for Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Let's please stand and sing together the national anthem as a video plays, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now's the time for our moment of solemn expression, and we're pleased to have Pastor Phil Eiskens from the Lighthouse Church. Pastor Phil, you have the floor.
You ever had a bad day? I'm not all myself today. I had lunch with some friends at church, and on the way out, I was kind of cleaning my teeth, and my implant that I paid $2,700 for fell out. And on top of that, my dentist is out of town until Saturday. So I say amen anyhow. Mr. Mayor, City Manager, esteemed City Council, I always consider it an honor to be here. In my capacity as a pastor, and I just am always honored to be the lowly pastor of the Lighthouse, to be able to come and pray before you guys. Our 28th president, Woodrow Wilson, he said this: "A nation which does not remember what it was yesterday does not know what it is today, nor what it is trying to do. We are trying to do a futile thing if we do not know where we came from or what we have been about." I would say we are in some times that demand prayer and concentration and wisdom from us all. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this city council. We thank you so much for the city of Costa Mesa, Lord, and the people that you have raised up into leadership, Lord, to make it one of the best cities around. Lord, I thank you for the police department and keeping us safe, and for their diligence, Lord, and the fire department. And Lord, help us to do our part, to pray for the leaders that have the rule over us, to ask for wisdom, because, Lord, we could sure use some. So, Father, help us tonight. Be with us, be with the city council as they make decisions on the behalf of the citizens of this great community. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you very much. Clap for the prayer. Let's clap for the prayer. We're looking for things to clap about. All right. City Clerk, will you please do the roll call?
Mr. Mayor, the record will reflect that all council is present except for Councilmember Bewley.
And just so everybody knows, Councilmember Bewley may come to the meeting. He's doing his best. He's got what did he want me to tell you? A minor medical emergency. And so that's all I can say about that. City Attorney, do you have a closed session report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to point out that we had one reportable action in closed session, and that was with respect to closed session item number 2, potential initiation of litigation. On motion by Councilmember Marr, seconded by Councilmember Gameros, and approved on a 5-0 vote with the mayor absent in that moment. The council authorized us to initiate litigation. I am withholding information about the party against whom that litigation will be initiated in order to preserve our ability to properly serve those parties. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, and for the record, I want to be on the support for that, so please make it a 6-0 vote. Okay?
Thank you.
We have no presentations tonight, so we'll jump right into public comments. You can talk about anything on the consent calendar or anything else that's not on one of our numbered agenda items. You have 3 minutes to speak, and you're at 2 minutes, you're going to hear a sound and you're going to see a light, and please wrap up at that point in time. We'll go to people in the chambers first, then on Zoom. Flo, you have the floor.
Flo Martin, 59-year resident of Costa Mesa. I had a flashback while we were singing the national anthem. I served as an interpreter for the 1984 Olympics at the swim venue where Greg Louganis won bunches of medals, and we heard that national anthem on a regular basis. I want to thank you, City Council, for your support and for your extension and upgrading of the Ride Circuit program. 2 additional cars, extended hours of service, and a lifesaver for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to a stroke that I sustained while driving and crashing, I no longer have a car and I no longer drive. I walk a lot. And the free shuttle, the service, has helped me go to Hoag Hospital. I would have the driver take me to Superior and West 16th, and I would walk the rest of the way. Now I can get to Hoag with the shuttle completely. On another note, I have read that the California Senate passed a bill, number 720, that deals with red light traffic cameras. I remember the day when we did have such red light traffic cameras. My son Todd lives just 1 block away from 19th and Newport, and he tells me even now there are crashes there on a regular basis. I also get monthly reports, thanks to the hard work of the Costa Mesa PD, with statistics about crashes involving drivers, pedestrians and drivers, cyclists and drivers, and their location, and Newport Boulevard is the worst of the worst. The new law states that the cameras will not capture faces, only license plate numbers. A violation will be considered a civil infraction, and the violations will not appear on driving records. I recommend that you support installing and operating and getting some funds for that for new red light cameras at 19th and Newport, just for a start. That intersection is the most dangerous one in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Flo. Yes, sir.
Hi, City Council. My name is Steve Smith. I missed my previous opportunity to offer a couple words up on the Fairview Park Master Plan. I want to quickly make now. For decades, people have been using Fairview Park as a place for recreation and enjoyment. They've behaved pretty acceptably by any standard, yet groups like the Harbor Soaring Society are being squeezed out year after year by the ever-tightening boa constrictor we call Sacramento and its rules and regulations. Many people have spoken against it. 155 people spoke out against it here, but it's not clear to me, given the current direction of the City Council, that that feedback has been heard. We all support in protecting endangered species, but the park was purchased for the people of Costa Mesa. And it's supposed to be a park for our use and enjoyment. The current park is already permitted, and these activities have been limited before. Before we displace groups like the Harbor Soaring Society, who have been respectful stewards in their use of the park, let's see some real data showing the actual decrease in endangered species, specifically from before and subsequently to their use and after. Overall demonstrating, real harm, not just theoretical concerns from Sacramento. Fairview Park is meant to be for the people of Costa Mesa and her environs as well, not for the birds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you so much for your time. My name is Dr. Katibi, and I'm the owner of a 46-unit property here in Costa Mesa that the city was kind enough to already approve for conversion into an affordable housing center. I've invested a significant amount into this project: acquisition, design, permitting, and construction, with the goal of delivering safe, dignified, affordable housing that aligns directly with the city's housing priorities. I am now in the final stretch. The project is entitled, it's substantially completed, and close to being brought online in less than 6 months, actually. What stands between the delay and the delivery is targeted city assistance, whether that's gap funding or coordinated support to resolve the remaining items efficiently. I want to be clear, I'm not asking to change the project, and I'm not asking the city to take on risk. I'm asking for a partnership to help complete a ready-to-deliver project the city has already approved and the community urgently needs. With modest support, this project can be completed quickly and begin serving residents who need housing stability now, not years from now. I respectfully ask the city to just direct staff to engage with me to identify how we can potentially work together and bring this project that's been approved and really within 6 months, bring it to fruition. I appreciate your time, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Okay, is there nobody else in the chambers? Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, wow, that's a record. Okay, close public comments. It's interesting. All right. Okay, so now we're going to do council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions. And the first one is from District 3, Councilmember Andrea Marr.
Mr. Mayor, can you come back to me?
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem. Then from District 5, Councilmember Arliss Reynolds.
The short public comment period caught us all off guard. Usually it's 20, 30 minutes of that. Okay, well, hi everyone, I'm back. Apologies for missing last meeting. I was here in spirit for a while and was out sick. So catching up on a number of things. If you have a outstanding email to me, I'm getting to it. I want to address just one of the comments from the public related to Caltrans or Newport Boulevard. Very much still a focus for the city. You may remember that last year our city council adopted a resolution formally requesting that Caltrans take Newport Boulevard seriously and the safety issues on Newport Boulevard seriously. There's been a lot of communication between the agencies over the last several months and some really important meetings coming up. So we are focused on it. I was disappointed we didn't get on the list to be a pilot city for red light cameras. I'll share with staff who focus on that I'd still love to get on that list. I do think it would be of good value to our city in these areas where there's daily excessive speeding and very compelling data on the safety issue. Other than that, I just have some requests from staff on updates that I'd like to get. Not necessarily this meeting. Some of these things I think may be beneficial to both the council and the public too. So an update on the 2 ballot initiatives that we gave direction to look into. I really want to make sure that, the time's going to pass fast, that we're up to date on the discussions there that I believe are happening in FIPAC. We started, I think a couple of years ago, discussions on investments in our bus shelters. So I'm very curious the status of that. I'd like an update on what we're doing there, both improving conditions of our bus shelters, but also when we're going to get out the shelters that we funded. I think we had about $300,000 for additional bus shelter funding. I'd love to see those out before the hot season comes. I know our Parks Commission got a really great assessment on our urban canopy and tree cover, and so and we've had some discussions with staff about, with the 250-year anniversary of the United States of America this year, there might be some nice goals to set with that in terms of trees planted this year. So I'd appreciate an update from staff on our plan and next steps related to the urban canopy assessment. And finally, I know we've finished the last year of our Arts and Culture Master Plan. My understanding is there's a little bit of a gap in funding between the close of that plan and creating a new one. So I'd appreciate an update, and even on what the Arts Commission is discussing related to how the 5 years of the master plan went and what the plans are and recommendations from that commission are going forward. So sorry, putting a lot on your plate because I've been out for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up from District 6, Councilmember Jeff Pettis.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it brief tonight. Thank you, Mayor, council members. So when I was running for council, or currently even, what I see to be the biggest priorities for myself are maintaining our infrastructure in the city, promoting small business and economic growth and public safety. And on the infrastructure part, for me, it starts with the individual resident, and one thing I've mentioned this before, I try to do is respond to all comments, no matter how small, or requests on my behalf from residents in my district, especially. And the success in which I can engage them with the city is dependent upon the success I find in staff's responsiveness. And just a couple of note, Charlie from Costa Mesa for Better Streets Night had an issue with some lights in the street at Kaiser, and kudos, I can't remember the exact staff it was, Raj, I'm sure you could pass it along for me, have met with him. I'm not sure if we've completed it or not where we're at, but they met with the resident and are addressing the concern, and that's all I need, and I appreciate that very much. And secondly, there was a woman last council meeting, Jan, who had some, was having an issue, it turned out to be more of a code enforcement issue with a patio on our back fence, and I had some communications with her on the over email, and staff is working with her. So hey, that's what it's all about. The most important thing to me is the individual resident. And on the public safety side, got some great information from Chief and Deputy Chief today. Really appreciated that talk, learned a lot, and we have great police and fire here. So that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Well, let's see. Next up would be Councilmember Bewley, but he's still not here. So let's go to District 2, Councilmember Lauren Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be brief as well. I wanted to start off by congratulating interim Fire Chief Jason Pyle on his appointment. I do wish the best for you, and I congratulate you on your appointment. I know we're in good hands. I do want to also address public safety just on a couple of fronts. We did meet in closed session today, and we had a great chance to speak with our police department in regards to how public safety is handled and different things. And what I want to just say is, if anyone wants to reach out to me, anyone in the community, to talk about how they feel about public safety or how we're engaging the community, I'm always here and willing to speak with anyone. And one of the priorities that we heard tonight from both chiefs is that the priority is public safety, right? So that's what we're here for. We're here for that. And along with that, I also want to comment. I remember a few years ago, we were talking about speeding and the corridors in our community. And once again, I find myself challenged. I have an 11-year-old daughter now who wants to go and ride her scooter down Harbor Boulevard to visit a friend. And then when I looked on the map, it's from all the way from Baker and Harbor to basically where the Fairview Rehabilitation Center is, where the new Emergency Operations Center is going to be, the EOC. And I'm literally losing sleep over the thought of my 11-year-old on a scooter cruising down Harbor Boulevard. So all I can say is when everyone comes up here and says traffic safety is such an important issue, I can tell you what, if you're not listening, you will be when your 11-year-old comes up to you and says, Dad, I want to start visiting friends and I'm going to take Harbor Boulevard. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so going back to Councilmember Marr from District 3.
Thank you. Sorry, I really wasn't ready. Usually I have longer to get my thoughts together. I got some questions recently about community gardens in the city, and so for staff, Brian was somewhere. I'd just like an update. I've heard a number of times that the line is really long for the couple of community gardens that we have. I'm curious about how long people are waiting on that. Are the plots so big that we might reconsider the size of some of our plots? Is it time, it's budget planning season, is it time to think about other options moving forward? It's a relatively, low cost, low lift thing for us to do when we're talking about large capital projects. So would love to get an update on the community garden front. Secondly, I've received some complaints about some conflict at Wilson Park between bikes jumping hills and folks trying to walk on sidewalks. I'm going to walk it with a resident who lives right by Wilson to get a better sense of what's happening there, but wanted to make sure I was flagging that for Public Works. And then the thing that I wanted to make sure I got right during my comments, if there's a move right now to expand the marine protected area off the coast of Laguna. So for any of you who spend any time in the water surfing or snorkeling or diving, it's a really important area along our coast where we actually allow native fish and fauna to thrive. And there is a move by the city, by some folks in the city of Laguna, to expand the marine protected area to match the boundaries of the city of Laguna Beach. And so that would extend it by about 1.5 miles, which when you're in the ocean and seeing kelp forest, 1.5 miles of kelp forest is a lot. And so if you go to lagunabluebelt.org, you can find some more information on how you can support that effort. That includes lobbying the city of Laguna Beach in order to make sure we can expand those boundaries, and then also staying on top of what is happening from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So that is very near and dear to my heart, as many of you know, and wanted to make sure I was getting information out in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Manuel Chavez from District 4.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, in particular the students from Costa Mesa High School. Thank you for joining us today for your homework assignment. And again, congrats to Chief Pyle on the new role. Just 3 quick comments. I had the chance to play mayor. The mayor may share. He was at a mayor's conference for the past good part of last week. So I had a chance to go to 2 amazing ribbon cuttings on the city's behalf. The first, our neighbors at the OC Fairgrounds and Event Center have a brand new admin building. So it's really cool to see them finally finish that project. I did tease them. I'm going to miss their Lego block building they had for a while, but I know they're happier with their new facility. Second, we have a new restaurant in town, Pacific Pearl at the Met. Wonderful eatery inspired by a chef that actually works at the Loft in the Montage in Laguna Beach, which is a really cool restaurant that my girlfriend loves to go visit at least once a year. So happy they're coming to Costa Mesa, bringing their good food culture to our wonderful city. And finally, I want to just thank everyone that was out protesting on Harbor and Wilson on Sunday. It was a very peaceful demonstration. A lot of students of where I work were very happily pleased to see people supporting them. So thank you to everyone that was out there doing the peaceful protesting. And that's all my comments for today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Wow. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I missed 2 really good ribbon cuttings, but I had to do what I had to do, especially the one at the Pearl. That used to be where my office was. So that's, I'll have to go by there. Congratulations, Interim Chief Pyle, for taking over. Thank you to, of course, to Chief Stefano for everything he did. And we had a very nice, on the 23rd of January, really nice send-off for Chief Pyle. Sorry, not for Chief Pyle. That's, you're here, for Chief Stefano. And so that was wonderful to participate in. I do want to spend the rest of my time giving you an update on the mayor's conference. And so the city manager and I went last week to the mayor's conference in Washington, D.C. I'm going to give you some of the stuff that we did. I took a lot of notes. She took a lot of notes. We're going to prepare a memo. We're going to send it around to the council. It's going to be available to the public. And if anybody has any questions about what I say now or what's in the memo, I'd be happy to answer the questions for you. But so it was very busy. So it was last Wednesday and Thursday, all day. We started at 8 o'clock with plenary sessions. We had over the 2 days, and it was so Wednesday through Friday. We had 4 plenary sessions and 8 breakout sessions. It's pretty amazing. There's a lot of staff there, but also so many mayors from all over the country. Basically, you name the city, they were there. Mom Donnie wasn't there. But other than that, Karen Bass was there. Brandon Johnson from Chicago was there. The mayor from Miami, Seattle, San Antonio, my favorite, Denver. I'll talk about him later. Mike Johnston was there, on and on. And they are so impressive and very open to sharing ideas. And it's a real it's a real good community of mayors. Very bipartisan. The Mayor Holt from Oklahoma City is the head of the Conference of Mayors, and he did a really good job facilitating. So anyway, just some of the things. I took these. I'm just going to go through my notes real quick and cover some things, and some in more depth than others. So one of the breakout sessions was about the creator economy and how we should engage more with influencers. And we've seen that with some of our businesses, and that's a real opportunity. There was a behavioral health panel that I went to. They talked about different strategies for addressing behavioral health, including dealing with the epidemic of loneliness and how the arts can help with the epidemic of loneliness. And my greatest contribution to the mayor's conference is I brought up my idea, which I'm going to execute in the spring, called Sing Along with the Mayor. So, some of the mayors liked that. Some of them said it was ridiculous, but it's okay. We're going to give it a whirl. We'll talk more about that in the months to come. We had an infrastructure hub breakout. A lot of talk about safe streets, which was good. A very interesting town, Carmel, Indiana, which has more roundabouts than any city in the United States. And it's a fairly small city. It's only 150 residents, but they've got roundabouts on virtually all of their intersections. So it's something to consider. There was a big discussion there about AI and the use of AI in the city. So the city manager and I and the council, I think, as we move forward with the budget, are going to be talking about ways to responsibly implement AI to improve our processes here. Cities around the country are doing that, and I don't think we want to be left behind in that regard. There was a breakout session on mayor's safety. And we had, of course, issues that we've implemented in the city of Costa Mesa, including our metal detectors. And so the mayors are concerned about their own safety and the safety of the people like you that are part of the public at our meetings. Let's see. I think the most impactful and interesting, there was a couple that were really interesting, but I was very impressed by this. There was a crisis leadership breakout, and the mayors that ran it were the Baltimore mayor, Mayor Scott, the Asheville mayor, and the Providence mayor. And of course, Asheville had Hurricane Helene, Baltimore had the Francis Key Bridge collapse, and Providence had the Brown shooting. They gave a lot of pointers about what to do in the time of a crisis, both in terms of communication and preparation. And I'll tell you that is the most important thing that I think we brought back. And you should know that we're already implementing that in Costa Mesa, some of the lessons learned in that breakout session. There was Oh, I gotta go, want to go back and say something. So in the infrastructure hub breakout, we had representatives from the Department of the Treasury, and they were talking about grants and Treasury grants and how it's going and different things that they're doing. One thing that's quite clear is that to get those grants now, you have to be compliant with the new administration's position on various social policies, such as DEI, and we're going to talk later about climate change and immigration. So I don't know where that leaves us with transportation grants, but suffice it to say, I wasn't all that encouraged. I don't think a lot of money is going to come to California in this area, at least as much as did under the prior administration. Then we talked about how to break out for immigration. It was very, very interesting. Oh, and sorry, we also had a breakout session on homelessness that I went to. It was led by Karen Bass. The mayor of Portland spoke extensively about the improvements that they've made. The mayor of Portland, within 1 year, has brought 1,500 emergency shelter beds online, and they've really addressed homelessness in a very aggressive and effective way in Portland, and it's improved the community quite a bit. Just to give you a sense of like where we are compared to other cities that you would know, the mayor of Albuquerque spoke, and he said when he took office, I think it was a few years ago, he says there was not one employee in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that was addressing homelessness at all. So if some of you went to our town hall that we had recently, where Nate Robbins spoke about all the things we're doing, we had the PD speak, and we talked as a council, and so we're pretty far along. I mean, we can always do better, but I felt like we were on the right track in terms of the homelessness panel. And then we talked about the breakouts. Oh, sorry, I buried the lead. So when we had our lunch meeting on Thursday, first of all, the mayor of Philadelphia spoke, and the mayor of Philadelphia is an amazing speaker. I was sitting with the mayor of El Segundo, and when she was done talking about Philadelphia, we both wanted to resign and move to Philadelphia. I mean, she is pretty impressive. And then after that, the Mayor Holt got up and he says, we have one other person who wants to speak. And he said, we have a message from, we want to hear from the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. And I figured that it would be a videotape. But I'll be darned if Jacob Fry didn't come right out on the stage and address those mayors that were assembled there. And he got 3 standing ovations from all of the mayors on a bipartisan basis. And I can tell you that what's going on in Minneapolis with Operation Metro Surge is not well received by any mayor, irrespective of their party. And so it was interesting to hear his comments, and he was very powerful. Then we got to the immigration breakout session, and there was a neighboring mayor in Minnesota who gave a nice, very powerful speech touching on some of the same themes that Mayor Fry did. We also had the mayor, as I said, from Portland before, who's had some, immigration enforcement issues and, discussions by the federal government about whether they're going to go into Portland, and he did discuss that. And then we had my favorite mayor, Mayor Johnston from Denver, and great guy. I even spoke with him, and my admiration of Mayor Johnston is maybe a little bit unhealthy. I mean, I really admire him. I follow him on Instagram, and it was just a wonderful opportunity just to talk with him. But he said something interesting that I think is applicable, at least it kind of got me thinking. He said, with all the things, like I mentioned infrastructure before, and he said, he was talking about actually invoking a speech by Martin Luther King, that was the mountaintop speech that he gave the day before he was assassinated, and how he said, in the middle of the speech, he talked about the Good Samaritan. It's a story of the Good Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And as I'm sure you guys know, if you know your Bible, the story is from Jerusalem to Jericho. A man was walking and he was beaten and he was left half dead. And a priest and a Levite walked by the Good Samaritan, and then the man on the road, and a Samaritan came over and came to his aid. And so this is what let me see if I can find it. This is what Martin Luther King said about that. I just think it's appropriate. He said regarding the priest, he says, this is quoting from that speech. And by the way, it's important to know, he was there, Martin Luther King was in Memphis giving that speech because he was there for a sanitation worker strike. He says, and so the first question that the priest asked, the first question that the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But then the Good Samaritan came by and he reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? That's the question before you tonight. Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to my job? Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to all the hours that I usually spend in my office every day and every week as a pastor. The question is not, if I stop to help this man in need, what will happen to me? The question is, if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to them? Or sorry, if I do not stop. That's the question. So I'll leave you with this. So it got me thinking, it got me reading about the Good Samaritan. And do you all know what question was asked of Jesus that prompted him to tell the Good Samaritan story? The question was, who is my neighbor? That's my report. There's been a request, and I know this gentleman, and so I support this, to adjourn the meeting on behalf of Tony Pecca. Tony was a 40-year resident of the city of Costa Mesa and a retired Anaheim firefighter. And I knew Tony. He was actually the uncle of a friend of mine. So rest in peace, Tony, and we'll adjourn the meeting on in his honor and memory. And with that, I'm going to turn it over for the city manager report by Cecilia Gallardo-Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I do have a few announcements, as you've heard tonight, regarding the promotion of Assistant Fire Chief Jason Pyle. Assistant Fire Chief Jason Pyle has been appointed as the interim chief of the city's Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department. So we want to congratulate Chief Pyle. He's a longtime and dedicated city employee with extensive experience, institutional knowledge, and a deep understanding of the community of Costa Mesa and the Fire and Rescue Department operations. Chief Pyle is well prepared to continue the department's mission and uphold the department's high standards. We look forward to the continued strength and stability of the fire department under the interim chief's leadership. The role has a special meaning to Chief Pyle, as Costa Mesa is a deep part of his roots. He grew up in the Newport Mesa community, attended Newport Elementary, Ensign Middle School, and Newport Harbor High. As he started his fire service career, it was always his goal to return to Costa Mesa. So congratulations, Chief. I also want to congratulate the police department, who recently celebrated 11 promotions that included the chief, the deputy chief, captain, lieutenants, and sergeants. Also, thanks to the outstanding recruitment efforts of our police department and human resources teams, we've achieved record officer staffing levels. Their hard work and collaboration are helping to ensure a strong, well-staffed department ready to serve our community. So thanks to Chief LaPointe and our human resources manager, Qasim Ali, and your teams for helping us to achieve this important milestone. I also want to acknowledge our transportation services team, Manager Paul Martin and Active Transportation Coordinator Brett Atencio, who put on another successful bike skills workshop at City Hall. We had about 50 kids who took part in the workshop and learned some great safety tips. So thanks to all those who made it happen. And finally, I'd like to recognize our transportation team who oversaw the expansion of the Let's Go Costa Mesa ride service. Due to strong ridership and positive community response, the program was expanded in 3 important ways, as you heard here earlier tonight. A 4th electric vehicle has been added to the existing fleet, which increases the availability and reduces wait time for riders. In addition, the weekday service hours have been extended by 2 hours per day, so it now operates Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then the rideshare boundaries have also been expanded to include the east side of Newport Boulevard from 18th Street to Santa Isabel Avenue, as well as Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach. So thank you everyone for all your efforts. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to go to the city attorney, Miss Kimberly Hall Barlow. Do you have a report?
I do have one item to report. I learned, 2 actually. I learned today that one of the cases that we have been dealing with for some time, Becker versus Costa Mesa, we've reached an agreement for that case to be dismissed for a waiver of costs. That was a case involving alleged conduct from about 30 years ago. So it's nice that will be behind us. And then I want to just make a comment, if I may, on a kind of a personal note. My partner had triple bypass surgery in October. He spent the night in the hospital last night. He had a cardiac incident of some kind yesterday. And I just wanted to say, I've never seen the ER so busy. Apparently the Kaiser strike is causing impacts on all the other hospitals around. But in the many, many days and hours I've spent with different personnel in that hospital, I have encountered people from, I think, pretty much every country in the world. It has been an extraordinarily eye-opening experience to see that the people that take care of us, from the people that mop the floors to the doctors and the nurses and the physician's assistants, and come from everywhere, not just America, but many of our satellite countries, if you will. But all over the world. And it was just amazing to me to be on the other end of all of that caring. And I just want to say thank you to medical personnel everywhere. You save lives and you make people feel better even when things are bad. So thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you. So we're going to go on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar items are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless somebody pulls pulls an item either from the council or the staff or the public. And so we have Councilmember Gameros is going to abstain from consent calendar item number 3. That's the warrant resolution because his wife works at Priceless Pets. They're included in that. And Councilmember Bewley has pulled consent calendar item number 6 regarding designation of city negotiators, but he's not here. So no pulley? No? Okay, good. All right, then I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar?
Move to approve
Second.
consent calendar.
Okay, good. Any comments?
Let's get consented.
Consented, good stuff. All right, let's call for the question.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, good stuff. Okay, so we have 10 minutes before we're going to get to 7. City Attorney, do you think that there's any problem why we can't do public hearing number 1, which is just moving to a continuance 10 minutes before 7? Is that right?
I think we can do that, but I do think if anyone comes in to speak on it at 7 or after, we would need to allow them to speak.
All right.
So at 7, perhaps you could announce that if anybody is now here that wanted to speak to that item, now would be the time.
Okay, good stuff. Don't let me forget. Okay, so then we're going to go for a public hearing item number 1. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is continuation request of an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to uphold the Economic and Development Services Director's decision to deny a reasonable accommodation request to deviate from certain requirements of the zoning code to operate a sober living home operated by the Ohio House at 115 East Wilson Street, Units A through E. Staff recommends tonight the City Council open the public hearing and continue the item to the April 21st, 2026 meeting pursuant to staff's request. Thank you.
All right, let's do that. Let's open it up the hearing. Does anybody want to speak to the item? Okay. Now, do we have to keep the hearing open, or what? Okay.
Yes, we're keeping it open. We're just
Okay.
continuing it to
Do
April
any,
21.
do any council members have any comments on this? Okay. So can I get a motion for the continuance, please? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, seconded by Councilmember Pettis. Okay. Any comments on anything from you, Councilmember? Okay. Let's call for the question.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Moving along, we can move to old business item number 1. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. This is adoption of ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, amending Title 13 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code, Planning, Zoning, and Development to allow for ministerial processing of 2-unit small lot ordinance projects. Code Amendment PCTY-2025-007. Mr. Yeager, Senior Planner, is available to answer your questions.
Mr. Yeager, you have the floor.
Well, I'll keep this very brief. Council, you conducted first reading of the ordinance at the last meeting, and nothing has changed since then. So at this point, I am open for questions, but the recommendation is to adopt the ordinance and find it is exempt from CEQA.
All right, it's the staff report of the year. Okay, so any questions of Mr. Yeager? Okay, let's open it up for public comments. All right, sir, you have the floor.
The only thing I can pretty much bring out to you guys is you guys are going to impact a lot of people by doing this, and the fact that notification needs to occur to the surrounding neighbors as part of this, that's bad. That's not helpful for your constituents or as a community. You know, at least give people a chance to have a say or vote about what's going to happen to their property, whether it's better or worse or indifferent. But by adopting this, and anybody can build anything without notifying their neighbors, that's not right. There's no other way to say it. It's just not right. So that's my 2 cents worth. But it's going to open a bunch of problems for the city as well, because people are going to start attacking it. So you're going to do what you're going to do, but thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. Ditto what was just said. The reality is that you should include a notification requirement in this ordinance, not just put it up that may happen, may not happen. The truth is that if somebody buys a house and they know that the guy next door might make 2 stories out of their house because they know what the entitlements are, but this is a whole new set of entitlements on a piece of property next door to somebody. So I would urge you strongly to add to this ordinance a notification requirement specifically to the neighbors immediately surrounding that property that could have just those changes. They don't just find out when the trucks pull up and start tearing down and rebuilding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, close public comment. Does anybody wish to make a motion? Councilmember Marr?
Move to approve the item.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, just to clarify for members of the public, so this was brief and seemed probably a little bit rushed. We did talk about this during the last council meeting. To clarify, this narrowly applies to a very small subset of projects that frankly had mostly ministerial approval anyway, and that we thought were a little bit of a performative art to come before the council and to go through the planning commission process. So this is an attempt to streamline some of the things that are frankly holding us back from building more housing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well said.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else want to be heard? Councilmember
Real
Pettis?
quick, I'm a no on this ordinance for the, it was billed mostly as a way to speed up the process or help housing get done quicker. And my view is there's two ways to do that. Take away the vote or the eyeballs of the public, or kind of get our act together more on the permitting and staff side of things. And ever since I've started watching this city council stuff, not just when I got elected, but years prior to that when I was considering running, I've seen more and more efforts for the public to be less and less involved. I know there's a lot of complicating issues right now with the housing element and some of our challenges on that end, but I think that it's not an excuse to remove the will of the folks to be notified when things are changing in their backyard. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, that's good. If there's nothing else, then let's call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds, please. Motion carries 5-1 with Councilmember Pettis voting no.
Okay. So we've made a lot of progress. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah, let's do a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back at, or let's do 15 minutes. We'll come back at 7:10. Hi, everybody. We're back on the record. Everybody, hey, please come to order. We're back on the record. Old business item number 2. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Adoption of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, adding Article 7 to Chapter 2 of Title 9 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code relating to grocery and drugstore staffing standards for self-service checkout stations. Presentation by Mr. Barkman, Government Affairs Manager.
Mr. Barkman, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a little bit of a presentation just to recap some of the discussions we had 2 weeks ago and some of the changes. As you recall, Long Beach adopted an ordinance in August, and on November 4th, the council here directed staff to do a preliminary analysis and then to return with a draft ordinance. We discussed that ordinance, the proposed ordinance 2 weeks ago on January 20th, 2026. And the council made a motion to adopt an ordinance similar to the City of Long Beach with modifications. During the January 20th, 2026 City Council meeting, we had public comment and we received a number of remarks from employees and members of the United Food and Commercial Workers that pointed out that store policies to understaff self-checkout are diverting employees from assisting customers, that language barriers or other errors with the machine are leading to negative customer experiences that employees have to deal with, and that they asked for support for adopting the Long Beach version with no revisions. Grocers and retailers provided comments also at the meeting, clarifying that in their view, retail theft had been addressed by Proposition 36 and 2024 state legislative package of bills, and that self-checkout is addressed in their collective bargaining agreement, and that the state legislation currently pending Senate Bill 442 includes discussions with UFCW at the table, and that their concern was that the private right of action enforcement in the ordinance placed liability on stores and employees to enforce the 15-item limit, and the prohibition on secure or locked items from self-checkout was also a concern that they raised. The City Council moved for modifications to be made to the proposed ordinance to maintain the 7-day right to cure that was included in the Costa Mesa ordinance, but not in the Long Beach language, to eliminate the alternative compliant language that had been proposed by staff, to restore language from the Long Beach ordinance that covered stores over 85,000 square feet with 10% of their floor space dedicated to non-taxable goods. So that is in the ordinance before you tonight. And that the requirement to make notice also include local store management in addition to any contact designated by stores. And additionally, we were requested to return in a year with an update. The proposed Costa Mesa ordinance applies to food and retail establishments over 15,000 square feet, including the 85,000 square foot language with the 10% of sale floor dedicated to non-taxable merchandise. Applies to all drug retail establishments. It requires 1 employee per 3 self-checkout stations. It limits self-checkout to 15 items and prohibits items locked or with theft deterrent measures attached. And it is enforced through private right of action. Again, with the 7 days to cure, the penalties of $100 per day and $1,000 maximum are similar to the Long Beach, and the attorney's fees and costs are also carried over. Again, these are the stores we indicated 2 weeks ago. No change here under drug retail. It would be both the Target and the 3 CVS stores that have self-checkout stations would be impacted by the ordinance, subject to it. And under food retail, the stores listed here, again, highlighted are the same stores that would be affected by the ordinance. Again, as the staff report points out, the City Council may adopt the ordinance as proposed or not adopt the ordinance. The council may modify the ordinance, albeit substantive amendments will trigger a new first reading. And for an example, extending implementation beyond the normal 30 days would not be considered substantive. So that was a question posed to us before the meeting. Our recommendation is to adopt the ordinance, adding Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 9 to the Costa Mesa Municipal Code. With that, I'll close and take any questions.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Barkman? Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, is this the place to, so I missed the previous discussion, have had many conversations and certainly reviewed the discussion and vote from council then. I'd like to propose some changes for discussion. Is this the time, or should I wait until after public comment?
Well,
Because I would like to hear public comment on the proposed changes. And
I think that's probably better for when you make a motion. But if you want to, I don't know.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm not. I mean, listen. If
Yeah.
you weren't here before, so I mean, I'm not really interested in standing on ceremony. If the rest of the council members are okay with it, I'm sure cool with you making your points about,
oh, here,
what
let me.
your thoughts are.
I will ask Mr. Barkman to explain this.
What a great question.
Or I'm sorry. Can you explain this?
What is it, and how can you explain it?
Well, yes, I know the council member posed some questions yesterday and today about differences between state law and let me pull it up here. For
Yeah, let's pull it
the
up
group.
so that
Yeah,
the public can see it, what we're talking
And
about.
I think the clerk is posting this. Oh, it's already been posted, okay. Great.
This is posted on the website, and we're putting it up on the screen, and that's this document, which you can discuss.
I'll walk through it. The councilwoman asked me to kind of compare various policy issues in state legislation, the collective bargaining agreements, the Long Beach ordinance, the Costa Mesa ordinance, and some amendments that she wanted to present for discussion. In comparing all those measures, I'll kind of maybe highlight the differences here, and this is what I kind of have in orange color and then also in yellow text. When it comes to requiring self-checkout be staffed, all those policies, yes, we require, and then require that no other duties be allowed. The collective bargaining agreements do require self-checkout be staffed, but allow for maybe more flexible policy and other duties being allowed. Staffing ratio is not required in the proposed state legislation that's pending consideration. It's not in the collective bargaining agreements. The language that they indicated to us is used that it's one employee per bank with no specifics on what constitutes a bank of machines. And again, on the Long Beach Costa Mesa ordinance, and then what's being proposed would be continuing with a 1-to-3 ratio. In terms of staffing stations always being open, that would be required across all policies. The collective bargaining agreement, my understanding is, specifies that that's required from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'll skip, there's nothing kind of difference in the self-checkout for 15 items or less. In the signage and notification requirements, state legislation requires that signage simply inform customers of an item limit, and that the state legislation doesn't require the stores to enforce it necessarily. Under the collective bargaining agreements, again, it's also informing customers of an item limit. In the both ordinances, it would be a notification posted for customers that informing them of the ordinance with a link to the city website and explaining the enforcement options under both the Long Beach and proposed Costa Mesa ordinance. In the amendments that I was asked about, the concept was, what about mirroring state legislation where you simply required that signage be posted informing customers of the limit, and that the signage will still include a link to the city website with information on the ordinance, and that we maintain the amendment that was proposed 2 weeks ago of local store contact being included in a notice of violations. In terms of a workforce policy, that's not required under the state, or that is, sorry, required under the state legislation. My understanding is not required under the collective bargaining agreements, but I presume the stores have their own policies and processes for dealing with workforce issues. And then that would be required, again, across the Long Beach and the proposed ordinance, and not required in the proposed amendments. In terms of items requiring ID, that would be prohibited from self-checkout under state legislation. I can't speak to what the collective bargaining agreement says on this, and continue to be prohibited across the other ordinances and the proposed amendments. Moving to locked items, Those are allowed in self-checkout under state legislation being proposed and would be prohibited in both the ordinances and the proposed amendments. In terms of enforcement and penalties, that would generally remain the same. I mean, speaking to the CBA, again, I'm speculating here. I presume they have store policies for how they handle employee complaints, and potentially a labor commission or another state agency might be involved if it's a violation of a collective bargaining agreement. Again, we would include the 7 days to cure in the Costa Mesa ordinance. The question that's been posed tonight is, what about expanding that to 15 days to cure? And then in terms of effective date, you can see here, state legislation, if passed and signed, would go effect next year. The CBA has been in effect as of last year, early 2025. And the Long Beach ordinance was 31 days after passage, so it's already in effect. The Costa Mesa ordinance, if passed as is, would be 30 days after passage. And again, the question posed tonight was extending that to 60 days after passage. So that was the extent of the conversations we had.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on one second. You still have the floor, Councilmember Reynolds. Do you have anything further?
Sure. I mean, I could, I'd rather hear, so Mr. Berkman presented this as some of the sort of questions and suggestions I had for him and have had many conversations about for the last few days since I've been out of bed. I'm curious, council's input and feedback, again, acknowledging that I missed the previous discussion and eager for public input on these suggestions.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Marr.
Is there any particular reason for 15 days to cure?
Yeah, I thought that, there was some discussion about the, potential, potential confusion when there is a notification. And I thought that 7 to 15 is a little bit more of a sort of release valve that allows some opportunity to get something cured. I just thought it was a helpful buffer if there's communication lost.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Anyone else have any questions? Yes. Yeah, Councilmember Gameros.
So thank you, Mr. Barkman, for your presentation. I want to go to the second page I think we're on right now. As far as effective date, can you just kind of define basically January 1st, 2027, if passed and signed? That is, what is that?
Normally, for state legislation, sorry, I should have put
That's okay.
at the top the heading. This is for the bill. It was SB 442. If that bill were to be passed this year, we're in the second year of the legislative session, so they'll adjourn in September, I believe. And then if it were passed this year, typically statutes go into effect January 1st of the following year, unless there's an urgency attached, in which case it can go into effect sooner. This is not a bill I see urgency being attached to, because it's not an issue of, I think, statewide significance that's trying to be addressed right now. So.
Okay. And then my second question is, we're not going to modify the update. We're going to keep it at the ordinance in place for 1 year. Is that correct?
I understood the motion from 2 weeks ago was just to come back, for staff to come back and just report.
An update.
On an update,
Yeah,
not a sunset or a.
No problem, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
I have a couple questions. So the SB 442, where is that at in the process, legislative process, and what's your sense of the likelihood that it's going to pass in 2026?
It needs to have a hearing, I think, within the next month or two. I'd have to check back on the date. It was made a 2-year bill at the end of last year, and so it's pending. So if action's not taken in the next couple months, I believe, without some extraordinary other measures or waivers taken, it would die. It would die.
Okay.
So.
And then the other question I have, I think it's probably for Councilmember Reynolds. So, and just to be clear, I mean, just everything, the proposed amendments on this chart, that's suggestions by Councilmember Reynolds. right? Okay, good. So my question is, I had a constituent tell me that there was a proposal that was going to be made to basically sunset the Costa Mesa ordinance if a state ordinance is passed, but I don't see that in the amendments. What's the story with that item?
I can comment on that. I've had discussions on a lot of different potential levers, just trying to really understand like what's more and less difficult, more and less acceptable, given the scenarios folks are concerned about, right? And so I had thought of that. Then I remembered that the previous vote included this one-year check-in. And so I think my thought process was the one-year check-in sort of suffices for that. Having a state law preemption when we don't know what the state law is, like, might as well just have a one-year check-in at council. And if a law has passed, you want to adopt that instead, the council can do that at that time. It seemed more straightforward.
And for the city attorney, then, I've got a question. So if the state does pass a law that occupies this field, like SB 442, or is it AB or SB? SB 442 or something else, would that preempt our ordinance?
The issue will be whether the legislature expresses an intent to preempt any local regulation, and I believe Mr. Barkman has some information on that.
So
Okay,
actually,
Mr. Barkman, you have the floor.
the bill does actually include language that it would not preempt any local regulation that was equal to or greater. So that is included in the state bill.
Those are all my questions. Let's open it up to the public. Anybody? You have the floor.
Hi, guys. I don't think that you should probably move forward with this prior to the state. I think it's just going to open up a can of worms. I understand you got union members here and probably some of the executive from the grocery stores, not to mention that you're only going after grocery stores, which then causes a problem because you're not going after other stores. So you're going to, your action might open up legal problems for the city, which then is going to cost more money to the constituents when it's just a very small demographic that this is impacting, where the finances might cause a much greater distress to the city on that demographic. So again, it's your decision. Your decision do impact a lot of people. So being we trust you, hopefully you'll make the right decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Whoever's next over here, you want to yield your time? Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, City Council members, and thank you for your service, actually, to the community. My name is Ryan Cullenber. I am the Associate Pastor of Harbor Christian Church. And I just wanted to say that I support this ordinance because our workers are asking for very reasonable requests. 1 worker per 3 kiosks seems very reasonable. Makes these workers' jobs a little easier, a little less stressful instead of having to manage multiple customers at the same time, which makes the customer experience worse, which causes longer wait times and more frustration. And I think we as a city should set an example to other cities not to encourage businesses to squeeze every last penny out of our workers. These are human beings, they're our friends and our neighbors, and they deserve respect. And we should not subject to them to working conditions where they could burn out or overwork in order just to promote more profits. And another thing is those profits, when they go to shareholders and to executives, they don't stay in the city of Costa Mesa. They are gone, whereas workers, as they earn wages in the city, tend to spend that money in the city, supporting other businesses and workers. So I'll just end with, I think workers deserve dignity and sanity and health in their workplace, and that is why I support this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Good evening, council members. I'm here to urge caution around the proposed self-checkout regulations. As written, these mandates are so heavy-handed, they effectively amount to a ban on self-checkouts rather than reasonable oversight. Regulating self-checkout to address retail theft provides little to no value. Modern self-checkout areas already use sophisticated technologies designed to prevent theft, and there is no evidence that these rules would meaningfully reduce employees. Employees are already trained and required not to intervene in theft or disruptions. A self-checkout is actually one of the least likely areas of for customer conflict or violence. Mandating additional staffing there does not improve safety. Finally, many consumers actively prefer self-checkout for speed, convenience, and for limited interaction. Over-regulating it will push shoppers to neighboring cities or to online retailers for click and deliver, which ultimately harms local brick and mortar grocery stores. I encourage the council to reconsider this approach and seek balanced solutions that support both consumers and local businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council and Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I also want to thank those who took time to meet with me and my association. My name is Ryan Elaine. I'm Director of Government Affairs with the California Retailers Association. Here to raise concerns with the proposed ordinance. Broadly, retailers have concerns with restrictions on business operations like this, especially with the restrictive 3-to-1 ratio at self-checkout stations. Limiting employees to monitoring self-checkout takes them away from other parts in the store, like assisting customers in the aisles for things such as unlocking locked cabinets to get items out or helping locate certain items. We also have significant concerns with the private right of action included in this ordinance. This raises the liability of lawsuits that many retailers will avert by simply closing self-checkout stations, as we've seen in Long Beach. This is not what retailers want to do, as it limits customer choice, but with the risk of liability, with the liability of lawsuits, many will take this step. We also have significant concerns with the item limitation and the language regarding theft deterrent measures. Both these provisions require employees to police the number of items and whether or not an item was behind a locked cabinet. As we worked on statewide legislation, as mentioned SB 442 over the last 2 years regarding self-checkout, and we're currently continuing that work. These two issues were more or less ironed out. For example, the item limitation in the Senate bill requires signage, and the items themselves are not subject to the private right of action. Additionally, theft deterrent measures in the Senate bill only apply to items that require employee assistance at checkout. So, for example, an item behind a locked cabinet requiring employee assistance prior to checkout are allowed to go through self-checkout because it's hard to essentially police and determine what is behind a cabinet, or if there is a cabinet and it happens to be unlocked or is there, how would that fit into this ordinance as well? Thank you. Always welcome talking and continuing to work on this. I just ask that you reconsider the draft ordinance, or at the very least amend the ordinance to make it somewhat implementable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council and staff. I went to church this weekend, and my pastor talked about leadership, and he offered a question that all leaders should ask when someone brings them a concern, which is this a problem to solve or a tension to manage? And here's one tension to manage. I watched last week, and the justifications for this ordinance offered by the mover in the second last meeting were a little different. Councilmember Gamero's motion to approve because he believes it will require stores to increase staffing to keep self-checkout lanes open. His second, Councilmember Marr, expressed doubts that consumers really love self-checkout. But if that's true, isn't it logical that stores would rather eliminate that than hire new workers? If she's right, then this ordinance may cause stores to close their self-checkout lanes instead of hiring. So which is it? Will this ordinance increase staffing or doom self-checkout? I'm not sure we know. But we could know without relying on tangential or outdated studies. You have a live experiment in Long Beach going on right now. They passed an identical ordinance. Instead of rushing our own ordinance, we could revisit their results in a year. If grocers hire more workers and keep self-checkout, perhaps this ordinance won't reveal as much about consumer preferences as we might hope. But if they close self-checkout and cut hours, maybe the ordinance isn't as pro-worker as you thought. Waiting is obviously wiser, so why rush? Here's something that's odd that I've noticed. Many stores with self-checkout aren't covered by this ordinance. IKEA, Uniqlo, Michaels, and Home Depot all use it, for example, and they all represent significant shoplifting risks, yet they're excluded. That doesn't make sense if this is about public safety, especially since the CMPD did not request this ordinance. You did. So what do the covered stores have in common? They have unionized workers. The excluded stores do not. And maybe that's why this is being rushed. UFCW wants it now, maybe to win concessions through municipal law that it did not win at the bargaining table. But if you pass this ordinance, what does it say about everyone else? If it's about workers' safety, are you telling Michaels or Home Depot workers they deserve less protection because they aren't unionized? And if it's about customer experience, are you saying that you don't care about IKEA or Uniqlo shoppers the way you care about people who shop at Ralph's or Vaughn's? If you pass this as written, I think you're saying exactly that, and I know that's not your intention. So you might say we have to start somewhere. We should try these stores first and then move to the others. But first, one, you don't have to. And second, if you do, it actually makes the asymmetry worse, not better. You'd be imposing significant regulations on unionized workplaces, and only unionized workplaces, while non-unionized businesses do as they please. Even if helping unionized workers are an appropriate city goal, which I don't think it is, why single out their businesses for more onerous rules? Don't pass this yet. At least wait and watch Long Beach. Think about what you're actually trying to accomplish. If you act in haste, as neither the staff nor the CMPD is urging you to do this, you may hurt the people you're trying to help.
That was very well timed. Yes.
Council members, Tim James, California Grocers Association. We greatly appreciate the conversations we were able to have with most of you. Both data and real-world experience shows the Long Beach policy model is a failure. Its intended purpose is to make self-checkout so difficult to operate it would be abandoned. And it worked. But its biggest failure is yet to come. Currently, most of the top sellers of grocery items are either exiting or diminishing their brick and mortar presence. Their push is to keep consumers at home on their couch to click and deliver their goods. As of today, 20% of all grocery item sales by volume is sold through click and deliver, and it is increasing fast. This reality is not debatable. Recent data and corporate announcements in the past week have verified this is true. With consumers demanding quick and timely groceries, Costa Mesa brick and mortar grocers can only push back with the experience and by offering convenience. This means self-checkout options. If you pass a Long Beach-style ordinance, your hometown grocers will be denied a critical competitive advantage. Simply put, grocery workers need grocery stores and grocery stores need customers. But if our primary tool to compete with click and deliver is taken away, as it will with this ordinance, you are risking the future of your own grocers. To question the impacts of the Long Beach ordinance and to not believe the same would happen in Costa Mesa or to reject the threat of brick and mortar grocers is a clear indication you did either not speak with grocers, you did not review the data, or both. We are asking you to avoid this mistake. Reject the Long Beach model. Instead, look to the recently ratified collective bargaining agreement, which employees and employers have agreed to. Do not leave your brick and mortar grocers and grocery workers stranded. Allow us to compete in the future of grocery openly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the chambers? Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. Councilmember Reynolds, you have a motion.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a motion to, would it be, do a new first reading? Do I need to specify that, Kim?
Yeah, it would be a new first reading.
Okay, a new first reading for an ordinance that reflects the ordinance in our staff report with 4 changes. And the 4 changes would be extending the cure period from 7 to 15 days, extending the effective date from 30 to 60 days, adjusting the language on the 15-item limit, which is section A, to, I'm going to start at the shall. So instead of the existing language, shall establish, implement, and advertise limits, replace that with the language, shall have signage that states that self-check should be limited to purchases of about 15 items. And for reference, that's the exact language from the bargaining agreement that was shared with us. And then the fourth change in section C, just a simplification of the public noticing requirement. So strike the language. I'm just going to read the existing languages. Drug retail establishments and food retail establishments shall notify the public of this ordinance by prominently posting signage in a location accessible to customers, which includes either a link or QR code to the City of Costa Mesa website regarding this ordinance. So keep all that. Strike the piece that is a summary of the public's rights under this ordinance. Keep a physical and/or email address to which notifications of violations of this ordinance may be delivered, and then strike the rest of the sentence, and the enforcement options available to the public pursuant to this article. That's my motion.
Okay. Is there,
Did the Mayor Pro Tem second for discussion?
pardon me?
The Mayor Pro Tem already clicked some buttons, so I'm asking if he's seconding for discussion.
Yeah, I was. Correct. Okay, second for discussion. Okay, so now, do you wish to be heard on the motion?
Yeah, thanks. I didn't hear. I thought it died. I didn't hear the click. Okay, so yeah, again, my apologies for not being here in the last discussion. Really would have really tried, and I know that could potentially make this process more cumbersome than it already is. But I really have spent a lot of time thinking about this, as I know many of you have, both before last meeting and since last meeting. I've had lots of conversations with both representatives of UFCW, grocers, retailers, their constituents. And my proposed adjustments are an attempt at what I believe is still achieving the goals of the ordinance, but providing a little bit more flexibility that reduces the reduces the risk management reaction, right? So by extending the cure period, by taking away the the punitive potential of having 16 items instead of 15 and just having signage, still requiring signage for 15, it just kind of takes away a little bit of the risk if you don't comply exactly all the time. And in my discussions, I felt like these were, and I got positive feedback, that these are the appropriate balanced approach that is reasonable and still achieves my goals of supporting jobs, as I've said in the past, but maintaining a reasonable approach to self-checkout.
Okay, second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Member Reynolds, for making your suggestions and your comments. I'm not one to typically be okay with changing second readings. I find that sometimes that just leads to a lot more confusion down the line, but I'm mindful that you were sick at the last meeting and you still made an effort to attend. So I appreciate you bringing your perspective that we probably would have included in the motion otherwise. For me, I'll just keep my comments brief. Thank you for everyone for speaking today in the last meeting and sharing your perspectives. What makes me comfortable moving forward with this is the fact that in 1 year, we're going to bring it back. That to me is very important. I said it last time, I'll say it this time. If it doesn't work out, then we'll just get rid of it. But if it does work out, it's something I do want to try. And I mentioned last time how in my district, it really came down to two reasons why I support this ordinance. And it was different constituencies in my district. The seniors from the senior tower mentioned that they preferred having someone help them out. their grocery store that's nearest to them is Smart and Final, and they do have a large self-checkout component, and they do push people to do self-checkout, and that was something they feel comfortable with. And for the young people in my community, the folks that are having to work because the parents may not work as much as they used to, I want to make sure they have a good, safe working environment. And I will just be blunt. I remember hearing kids tell me they got let go when there was a dispute with Stater Brothers because they were like courtesy clerks. And that to me I did not like to hear the kids in my community who are working, have their parents pay the bills, lose their job for essentially contract negotiations. So that's why I'm supporting this motion again. And yeah, those are my comments.
Yes, of course.
So, I was prepared to come here with both guns blazing and emphatically vote no, but I'm inclined to agree with Councilmember Arliss Reynolds on one condition. This will be marked 2/3/2026 that Arliss and I got together on something and agreed. But it's, yeah, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for a little bit because sometimes in this business of local governance, you have to look at the whole situation, and you can't always get everything you want. I hate the Long Beach ordinance, but I do feel, and thank you, Councilmember Marlis, for looking at the amendments carefully that she's making, that I do think we get close enough to the state law that could or could not come about, and the 1 year, I agree with Councilmember Chavez, the 1 year checkup helps me. We get close enough to the state law that, and far enough away from the onerous Long Beach law that there's enough here for both sides for me to agree. The reason I'm hesitant is just because the local business, and I agree with Tim, who talked about the click, the Instacart. You know, our grocery stores are in real jeopardy. And we need them, and we need local business, brick and mortar, to thrive. It's a priority for me. I believe this ordinance is a compromise that at very least we'll be able in a year. Jen Tanaka, maybe we're making the wrong decision, maybe not. I think the amendments are enough to get me over the line, so I'm going to be in support. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other comments? Okay, so then I think we're ready to call for the question.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, good job.
Councilmember Pettis, did you call her Councilmember Marlis?
No, but that would be super funny.
I think I just heard
Can I do
that was a thing.
I thought I don't want to get nuked.
We're having a moment already. Don't mess it up.
Julie left me
Put it
hanging again.
together. We just supported a motion. One of my motions.
All right, let's move on to new business item number 1. Good job, everybody. Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I ask that we advance new business item number 2 ahead of new business item number 1? Given we've got the operator here and.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's fine with me. Does any council member object? No, it's good. Okay, let's
Mr.
move.
Mayor,
Let's move.
Can I just, could we just ask if anybody is?
Oh, yeah, did anybody want to speak on
Public hearing
public
item?
hearing item number 1? No? Okay, good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to switch up.
To public hearing
Oh, on
item number 1?
You want to speak on 1? Sure. Well, you were here. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I thought somebody else was going to speak, but why we keep prolonging this? It's just a dumb question. I mean, you guys are in a legal, this is about the Ohio House, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been in violation. You guys are still spending legal money on this thing, and you keep prolonging it. There's 5 houses. There's 5 bedrooms per house. There's 2 to 3 kids in each room. At least $1,000 a month for each one of those kids to stay there. Every month you guys are extending this. These guys are making a ton of money milking the system, and then they're dumping these kids. These kids are still coming out and are on the street. You know, and with all due respect, the Vista is not working either. So it's a problem. Keep pushing it down the road is not solving the problem. You know, I drove through the alley today, and 2 vans were there, and over 15 kids came out of it because they went to the grocery store. So I don't know why you guys are prolonging this. It's either, you either operate correctly or you don't, right? I mean, aren't we kind of trying to figure this thing out here? But you keep pushing it along the line, and every month it's additional income for the operator. They might say they care for the kids. Everybody's got a problem. We all need therapy at some point. But you got to stop sometime. And this has been going on for years. And you guys had Dr. Honey thing going on for 8 years. How many millions of dollars were spent on legal on that? At some point, enough. Just make a decision. You made a decision for this tonight. Why can't you make a decision for the Ohio House as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, new business item number 2.
Thank you. Operation Agreement for Lions Park Cafe, presentation by Mr. Gruner, Parks and Community Services Director.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Honorary Mayor, council members, and members of the community. Just uploading my presentation here. Is it up? Does it look okay? Oh. What's it?
Full screen.
It's not the full screen.
No, what is it, full screen? Or is it set up different?
Full screen? Full screen's down here.
Okay. Yeah, this is set up.
Click on that. And then full screen. Full screen. Full screen.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So the Parks and Community Services Department is looking for council's approval in the operations agreement for the Lions Park Cafe. This has been a project that has been in the works for quite some time. Just to give you a little background, Phase 3 of the Lions Park project included the construction of the cafe kiosk located at 1845 Park Avenue. The construction of the new 1,100 square foot cafe kiosk was funded by Supervisor Foley at $1.2 million and the city's capital improvement fund at $1.1 million. The city entered into a MOU with the county for shared revenue with the Orange County Public Libraries. And that MOU was entered into an agreement on February 2nd, 2023, and has a 50% of net revenue goes to the public libraries, and 50% of the net revenue goes to the Mesa Verde or Donald Dungan Library. In addition to that, the other 50% will actually go to the maintenance of the Mesa Verde and Donald Dungan Library, which this was included in the RFP process. And the city is seeking a viable, experienced operator to provide services at the cafe kiosk. The RFP process was entered into on October 2nd, 2025. And we actually did a lot of outreach where we contacted over 25 local coffee vendors or vendors with a similar type of platform where they're serving coffee and pastries and different things like that. Out of those 25 plus that we contacted directly, we had 2 applicants. One is Need Coffee and the other one is Every Table. The proposals were scored on the following qualitative factors: qualifications of the proposer, organization, and key personnel, approach to providing the requested scope of services, and the cost-sharing element. We conducted the interviews on December 10th, 2025, with the 2 applicants. Interviews were scored by panelists in the following categories: grasp of the project, approach, qualifications and experience, communication, quality of presentation. And based on the proposal and interview scores, it was determined that Need Coffee is the most qualified and experienced vendor for the cafe operations. And the summary of the scoring is right below in that chart. Every Table, the proposal score was 1,050. The interview scores was 1,160 for a total of 2,210. Need Coffee had the proposal score at 1,070 and the interview score at 1,240 for a total of 2,310. Need Coffee is a locally owned coffee business from Costa Mesa since 2015. They have high-quality multi-roasting shop, community-oriented business. I will say that they have a very strong following among community constituents. In addition to that, the quality of the product that they serve is at a very high level with a very customer service-focused business model. The vendor will serve Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and offer certain type of discounts, such as for seniors, library patrons, discounted products during our city events. In addition to that, they will be actually selling some of the products at below market rate currently. So that is a nice incentive for our community to really enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy some good coffee out at Lions Park. So our recommendation is to award an operation agreement to Need Coffee for the management and operation of the Lions Park Cafe. Authorize the city manager or her designee to negotiate the terms and conditions for the financial share between the city and Need Coffee. Authorize the city manager and the city clerk to execute the operating agreement and future amendments to the agreement within city council authorized limits. Appropriate net revenues as received by the city that comply with the agreement of 50% net revenue to the Orange County Public Library for net neutral impact. I do want to mention we do have the operator here in case council has any specific questions to the operator of Need Coffee. I do want to also quickly mention that the agreement that is attached is a draft to the staff report here, and the final negotiations would be conducted after the award of contract to Need Coffee. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Councilmember Marr?
I think Councilmember Reynolds has some good ones that I'm excited for. I think the one question I had is the applicant requested a couple of capital improvements or infrastructure improvements rather. Are we comfortable adopting those, or will that be negotiated during the operating agreement phase?
That will be negotiated, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Reynolds?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with a general question, then I can ask a number of specific ones if needed. As usual, read every line of the draft agreement, had a number of questions that I shared with staff. I actually posed some questions to the proposed operator as well and shared feedback that I think you've received. Can you, I think it'd be helpful if you can, comment on those, see if there's anything, especially among the specific notes from the applicant, proposed operator, whatever, NEAT, if there's anything there that you think is for any reason unacceptable.
So, yeah, that's a good question. I did have a discussion with the potential operator, and she did have a few points that she wanted to address in regards to the number of special events that she could coordinate on the park area. Another example is a minimum of 30 days notice for city events, which is acceptable. There is also, in section 14, for example, noted hard copy letters for all requests. Would email be acceptable? Yes, we can certainly, accommodate that. If there's something that needs a signature, for example, then obviously we would request that person to, come in or do a certified, mail or something like that. So a lot of these points that were, provided or provided some clarification in the agreement itself can certainly be accommodated. There's really nothing that's out of the ordinary that's really, not appropriate. I think these are all very good discussion points, and I think those can be all worked out.
Okay, and then what would be the process? I was under the impression, the recommendation in the staff report is, authorization to execute the operating agreement. It doesn't say negotiate, right? So that's why I wanted to pull out a number of these concerns or potential adjustments. So can you just talk through sort of process, if we move this forward tonight, how does that work? Because I'm also interested in starting that 3-month period of getting things open and people starting to get their first coffees as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, of course. So basically, after the council would award the contract or the agreement, we would, reach out to the vendor. We would meet with them, have those, discussions on all the different, discussion points that were pointed out, and we would have that dialogue and that negotiation along with the finance department and legal, of course, and finalize the agreement, and then we would move forward with the operation.
Okay, and just one specific thing I want to note. So there were several parts of the proposal by NEAT that I didn't see reflected, like hosting 12 events, which is a huge benefit to the community. I think we would all agree, but certainly my perspective, I didn't see that in the operating agreement, for example. My interest there, I don't know that it needs to be, but I do think that part of the agreement, one thing that we've talked about before in special events in general is, it can be a cumbersome process. There's a pretty big fee. In this unique partnership, my expectation would be that, we're waiving the fees for those events because they are, directly community serving events in partnership with the city. Do you see any issue with that?
No. Again, I mean, I think Lions Park is certainly a park we want to activate as much as possible. And I think that's really the key to, dealing with some of those issues that we have at Lions Park in regards to like transients and different things like that. But we definitely want to activate, we definitely want to work with the vendor. Even the hours of operation, there has to be some flexibility, not knowing what the consumer behavior is going to be, and also what the community needs are going to be. So we want to be flexible and make sure that we really, kick things off on the right foot and get the whole, operation in the right direction right from the beginning.
Okay. The draft operating agreement specifies operating hours. The proposal talks about, potential outside of hours events, supporting evening events in the city, for example. What I'm hearing you saying is, yes, that flexibility would be built in, so they're not restricted to the daytime hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing in the proposal, which I really liked, and what I know NEAT does at their other locations, are collaborations with other small businesses, right? Doing sort of pop-up events. That flexibility would be considered in the agreement.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it would. Yeah. Again, we really want to try to emphasize the activation of the park, and I think we'll definitely work closely with the operator and make sure that we offer programs and activities that really benefit the community, and if that includes other businesses, we'll definitely do that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So as usual, I didn't read every line of the contract, but I just want to see if I just understand the economic flow of this, okay? So somebody buys a cup of coffee. When they buy that cup of coffee, 3% of the gross revenue, so let's say they buy it for $1.50, 3% of that goes to the city, right? And then Neat Coffee then, keeps the rest. They run their business out of it. They're responsible for all the expenses and so forth and employees. And then they get whatever's left, they get profit, right?
Right.
And of that 3% that we get, we share 50% of that 3% with the OC Public Library, okay? And then the 1.5% of the gross that we received, then are there any restrictions on that?
Yeah, that would go to the maintenance of the Donald Duncan Library or the Mesa Verde Library.
I see. Okay. And so, and is that true with the county's 1.5% as well? It goes to the maintenance?
I believe that goes straight to the actual county.
That goes to the county?
Yeah, for the Orange County libraries.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I think I understand the waterfall. Everybody's good? Got it? Okay, I don't have anything else. Let's open it up to the public hearing. Yes, sir.
Good evening, council. Happy New Year. The mayor's question just prompted something in my mind. The 1.5 points that the city's receiving and sharing, or not sharing, maintenance for Donald Duncan and Mesa Verde libraries. Is the city currently paying to maintain or paying a portion of maintenance on those 2 libraries? I wonder if staff could answer that question. And is this, or if they're not, if the city's not currently paying any maintenance, then apparently this is a new process or a new expense for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening again, City Council and staff. Much cheerier public comment this time. I am just so thrilled to see this coming forward. And first of all, I want to thank the potential concessionaire at Neat Coffee for taking this risk. I mean, this is a huge risk to take this on. It's our first opportunity to do a public installment of a cafe in a park in Costa Mesa. It's something actually really rare in the United States. It's less rare elsewhere. But incredible things can come out of these sorts of opportunities. I would remind everyone that the original location of Shake Shack was actually in Madison Square Park in New York City. So who knows? But I was also a member of the FIPAC when this originally, the idea of the cafe came back because there was money from the County of Orange to actually make this into a reality. And I was happy to support it at the time, in part because I do think that putting concessions in parks is a risk worth taking. It's something that will not only activate this park, I could promise you will activate the park, because if you have kids, they are like the most excited thing they can possibly do is go buy something at the concession stand. Like that is like literally the best thing in the world for 6-year-olds to walk up with their own money and say, I would like that. So I'm very confident that there will be a lot of really happy kids from this. But there will be also a lot of happy adults. I will be one of them. I'm a big fan of Neat Coffee, and you know, there was a great podcast actually that was just released today by Ezra Klein. He was interviewing Priya Parker, who is the author of The Art of Gathering, and they talked in length about how important it is for people to gather together for whatever reason, even for the dumbest reason. And a big problem that we have in the city is that we just don't have a lot of places to do that. I mean, I am on the board of a nonprofit, as you guys know. We are constantly looking around for places to just hang out with everybody, and it can be very difficult. We often navigate to coffee shops because they have big open spaces where you can actually have a conversation. So this is incredibly important work. I know it sounds strange to say that. Neat is the perfect vehicle for this. They have been so community-oriented for so long. They've tried so hard to try to activate their own space. I mean, they call after their evening service third space, for goodness sakes. I mean, they're really trying. So I'm thrilled by this, and congratulations to Neat. I hope that this goes forward. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Stevens and council members. I'm Robbie LaBounty with Supervisor Katrina Foley's office. Supervisor Foley is proud to support this partnership with Costa Mesa and commends the City Council for bringing the Lions Park Cafe to fruition. This cafe represents exactly the kind of regional collaboration that strengthens our communities. When the county provided $1.2 million in funding for this project, we envisioned a vibrant community gathering space that would serve the entire Lions Park campus, from the families at the playground Playground to students at Donald Dungan Library. The selection of Neat Coffee, a locally owned business with deep roots in Costa Mesa and Mayor Pro Tem Chavez's district, demonstrates the city's commitment to supporting local entrepreneurs while ensuring quality service for residents. Their proposal of discounts for library card holders shows they understand this cafe serves a public purpose beyond profit. Supervisor Foley's vision of revenue sharing agreement with Orange County Public Libraries ensures this amenity directly benefits the very facilities it serves, which creates sustainable funding for library services while activating public spaces. Supervisor Foley looks forward to seeing this cafe become a cornerstone of community life in Costa Mesa, where neighbors connect, students study, and families gather. We're grateful for the city's partnership in making this vision a reality. Thank you for your leadership on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This feels so surreal. I have lived in Costa Mesa for 20 years, and Lions Park has been in my life ever since, which sounds funny, but I went to college right here next door and worked with like an after-school program at the rec center, and have since then had a family and a baby and taken my daughter to her first swim lessons at the pool there, and take her to the library and story time so often. And yeah, it feels like our backyard, and I'm really, really excited to breathe a lot of life into that space. I imagine that field, that grassy area, just covered with people having picnics, and it kind of gives people permission to hang out there longer and to have a drink and a snack. And I've been one of those parents at that park that just would really love a coffee to just keep me going. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a little bit, yeah, it does feel like a risk for sure, but I am grateful for this opportunity, and yeah, really excited to be working with the city in this way. So thank you.
Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Fisher, please.
Fisher, you have the floor. Fisher? Fisher cut bait? What? Nobody?
No, he's not unmuting himself.
Okay. Anybody else on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on one second. I just want to make sure. Nope. Okay. Going once, going twice. Do you have something about closing the public comment?
No, you can do that.
I can do that. Thank you very much. I'll close public comment. Looks like we have some really fast fingers here. We have Councilmember Marr that wants to make a motion, and Councilmember Reynolds might just second it. So you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to approve the staff recommendation with 2 modifications. One is that the operating agreement shall exempt Neat Coffee from any special use permit fees for activating Lions Park. And 2, that the operating agreement shall not restrict Neat Coffee hours of operations for events that activate Lions Park and that are coordinated with city staff.
Second. Okay. It's your motion, so you have the floor.
Whew, okay. Allie talking just now got me a little emotional, so hopefully I can make it through this. And we are talking about ethics later on the agenda, and so I did have to question myself a little bit, like, am I too biased because I love Neat Coffee too much? But I think I'm able to make an impartial decision and not have to recuse myself from this. To Councilmember Reynolds' point, I will admit I was not going to read Neat Coffee's proposal. I got through the operating agreement and the staff report, and then Councilmember Reynolds said you really need to actually read what Ms. Garvin wrote, and so I'm going to read to you 2 paragraphs that to me just embody why this is the right decision for the city. This is from her proposal. This opportunity feels like a natural extension of everything Neat Coffee stands for. Our mission has always been to create spaces for human connection, and the Lions Park campus, with its library, recreation center, pool, park, and event lawn, is already a vibrant hub where our community gathers daily. We're excited about the prospect of serving the diverse visitors to this campus. Families attending story time, students on study breaks, seniors completing their lap swim. Someday that will be me. Children playing at Airplane Park, and attendees of the many city-hosted events throughout the year. We offer carefully sourced coffee, very important, a welcoming atmosphere, which I really appreciate, and pricing deliberately set below market rate to ensure accessibility within this publicly funded space. How often do we get proposals where the vendor said, actually, I'm going to lower my prices for the sake of this community? That kind of never happens, right? So anyway, proud to support this. Yes, I had my finger on the button the second I could to make the motion, and congratulations.
Thank you. Does the second wish to be heard?
Yeah, I did send a note to Councilmember Mara saying you have to read this. It made me cry, in a really, really special way. And I really do encourage you to read it. And I want to highlight for staff, like, as we're going out for proposals on different partnerships throughout the city, like, this is the kind of proposal we want to attract, right? It's a unique situation, but we talked about February 3rd being a momentous day, right? Like, this could be also the start of a sort of a new approach to public-private partnerships. And I'm glad Councilmember Mar read excerpt from the proposal. I'm going to read, just share a couple of my notes in the section on innovative and creative approaches. So this is beyond meeting all RFP requirements. They propose some things. After the first paragraph, my comment, yes, 2 exclamation points. After the second, yes, 3 exclamation points. Yes, 3 exclamation points. Cool, 2 exclamation points. Yes, 3 exclamation points. I got excited about this proposal. It's in terms of the agreement and working on adjustments to the agreement. My interest is in making sure that the operating agreement enables the concessionaire, NEAT in this case, to realize the vision in that proposal. And to have the flexibility to be creative with them, right, with our amazing Parks and Community Services team, to really work together on the shared goals of creating safe spaces, all of the values that are posted outside, right, attracting, supporting everyone from the young kids going to the library to seniors strolling through, and everyone in between. We want this to be if this is a great experience for NEAT, they will create a great experience for our residents. And we know that because they do that. And so, I think that means having clear points of contact for them as they're, working through as they're working through all of their operations and the public benefits part of it, quick turnaround, quick response time, waiving the event fees. I think that's all really, really important. This is a very exciting day. I'm excited to see what they can do. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, members Reynolds and Amar, for your nice comments. I too am very excited to see this partnership come together. No secret to most, I do like going to coffee. It's a block from my house, so I am there often. But what excites me most about this, apart from it being a great partner like Neat Coffee, is the highlighting of the importance of local partnerships. I'm very pleased we went out to bid more than once to make sure we got a local small business in our community to partner with us. I'm very pleased that we worked on this project in conjunction with the County of Orange, Secretary Foley, to make sure we got this part of the full vision of Lions Park completed. Because to me, this is the last piece of that project. This is the piece that kind of invites the community to stay a bit longer, despite not having the community events that they need as an excuse. And having seen how often Neat Coffee has community events like this past Friday, and in multiple times with our fire association, I know they bring that community partnership mentality to the park. So this is a great partnership. I'm excited to vote for this, and I'm happy you chose to make a leap to go out to bid for this.
Okay, I've got a few comments. I think we've got enough votes. I could say congratulations to Nate. I know you'll do a great job, and thank you for everything you do to the community. And, you know, we have two very enthusiastic council members, and they've got every reason to be enthusiastic. So, but I want to say a couple of other things so that they're not lost at this moment. Number one, the staff report, the oral staff report was excellent in terms of very transparently and directly explaining the procurement process. That's something that we've been trying to work on for a while, and I think it was a very respectful presentation to both NEAT and the other applicants. So thank you for that. Thank you to our Public Works Department for all the work that you've done on this, and you know, it's pretty amazing. I go back though to like way back in 2017, which seems like a lifetime ago, when Katrina Foley and I guess can't remember what we were. Maybe she was the mayor at the time. I can't even remember. And we went into Tammy Letourneau's presentation up on 5A, and they laid out the Lions Park project, and the cafe wasn't on it. And we're like, what happened to the cafe? What happened to the cafe? And we were both very crestfallen about that. And Katrina, Supervisor Foley, to her credit, remembered that. And when she got in a position to direct some funds from the county to us, she did. And so thank you and credit to Supervisor Foley for that. Also, as Ms. Tanaka said, when we had some money, some surplus, and the FIPAC went through and looked at, and Mr. Tabota's here, he'll remember, looked at what we should spend the money on, this was the highest rated item. And so thank you to FIPAC and thank you to the council who made that decision to put the other $1.1 million into it. So I'm not even sure when Neat Coffee opened, but this culmination that we're seeing right now, which is quite beautiful, started a long time ago. And it's a culmination of a lot of decisions, a lot of money, a lot of commitment. And I'll say one thing just to reinforce something that Ms. Tanaka said. So I've been having, you know, events that I attend at schools lately. Just the other day I was at Killiebrook speaking to some students, and last week I was at St. Joachim. And, you know, it's like, what do they care about with the city, right? So what are the things I talk about? I talk about Brentwood Park. I talk about the skate park, the basketball courts at Balearic, and I talk about this cafe. And you could hear from the children, to reinforce her point, an audible sense of excitement when I mention this cafe. So it's going to be a gathering place for families. It's beautiful. So thank you to everyone who was involved in that. Congratulations. You're going to do a great job. So anybody else wish to be heard? Let's call for the question.
Okay, you can vote. Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. New business item number 1.
Okay, this is Climate Action Adaptation Plan Status and Outreach Update Presentation by Ms. Gregg, Planning Consultant, and Ms. McGill, Planning Manager.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ms. Gregg and McGill, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Let me just bring up our PowerPoint for everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Gregg. I'm a planning contract consultant for the city. As always, it's an honor to be here before you tonight. Along with me is Anna McGill, our advanced planning manager, as well as Jennifer Reed, who is our project manager as part of the DUDEC team who is developing the CAP for the city. So tonight we'd like to present you with the status update on the CAP as well as our outreach update. And just for clarification, CAP stands for Climate Action and Adaptation Plan for those following along. So a little bit of background. The CAP supports the city's goals to advance environmental sustainability and climate resiliency. In addition, it aligns with state mandates and best practices for local climate planning. The CAP development contract was approved in October of 2024, and it kicked off in December of 2024. The CAP does have a number of benefits, including protecting our environment by helping reduce greenhouse gas and conserve natural resources, safeguard our community by preparing for climate-related hazards. It also supports economic growth to promote sustainable businesses and job creation, as well as helps us plan for our future by aligning with state and federal climate goals and provide access to state grants. So where are we at in the process of the CAP? Well, the following tasks have been completed or are in the process of being near completion. So the first endeavor that we went on was data collection. So as part of the CAP, we have to create a baseline. So we collected utility information for the years of 2022 through 2023 in order to develop that, and we received that data from our utility partners as well as our own records. In addition to that, we reviewed the city's existing plans, policies, and programs that are currently in effect. We completed a greenhouse gas emissions inventory as well as completed future projections for the city's build out. We have also developed a climate vulnerability and risk assessment, and that was done through interdepartmental coordination against city departments, including our emergency services and our public works department. And then we've also been completing community outreach as well as stakeholder engagement. So to dive a little bit on the public outreach portion of it, so we kicked off our public outreach on our Earth Day event on 2025, and although it was a cold and wet, rainy day, we had an amazing turnout with very excited residents and community members that took part, and we had a great amount of engagement and education. The bottom photo there is taken on that very wet, cold, rainy day. And then we also did a concert in the park over the summer that was incredibly well attended, lots of questions and engagement there. And then we also had engagement activities at both of those engagements. The top picture is a tree where residents could write their ideas for more green, sustainable Costa Mesa. That generated a lot of ideas that we've been able to compile together. In addition, we had a table specifically for the youth to draw their version of a greener Costa Mesa. And we have over 150 pages from very talented kiddos in our community. We also have a project website for the CAP. We've done outreach and pop-up events from coffee chats to back to school night. We've done social media posts. We've conducted 2 surveys, one for residents and one for city employees. The city employee was to look at travel habits currently, and then we've also had stakeholder meetings. Those stakeholder meetings are the internal stakeholders are city staff from various departments, and then the external stakeholders are community partners. So what have we learned from all of this? Well, based on Costa Mesa's community inventory, 63% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from our cars that we drive to and from every day. 31% comes from building energy, so those two are the lion's share. 4% come from off-road equipment. These are things like landscape materials or equipment, such as lawnmowers and leaf blowers, as well as construction equipment. 1% comes from solid waste and 1% comes from water and wastewater. And then what did we hear from the community? Well, many participants shared a vision for a more sustainable Costa Mesa that included increased renewable energy sources such as solar, expanded access to green spaces such as parks, playgrounds, and community gardens, including trees, which is not on the list, but we did get a lot of comments for trees. Improved transportation options, alternatives to car travels, such as biking, walking, and public transit. as well as efforts to increase compost and recycling to help reduce waste within our community. So what we looked at was where we're currently at as far as our greenhouse gas emissions, and then if we change nothing. So that top line is business as usual and what those greenhouse gas emissions might look like. And then on top of that, overlaid what the emission reductions are from statewide actions that are currently in place, and that reduces our greenhouse gases by quite a bit. And then we looked at state alignment targets in order to get to the 2030, 2020, or 2045 legislative requirements. And then the difference between that is our local gap that we're working on to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions further to get to that 2040 requirement. So the next process, or the next step in this process, is to start developing our policies. In order to do that, first we have to look at the sectors that have the biggest influence on being able to address greenhouse gas, some of which we've already gone over, the on-road transportation, energy, water, solid waste, off-road equipment. But we're also looking at people in the community in terms of adaptation, natural and urban lands, as well as our municipal usage on energy and how we're stewarding that. So to help develop the framework for these policies, first we'll start with the sectors that I just mentioned, and then develop the objectives. That's another way of saying the goals for what we are wishing to achieve in that. And then finally, we'll develop the actions, and those are the goals that look like programs, policies, and how we're going to be able to achieve the goals within there, the objectives within there. So to kind of elaborate on that a little bit further, here's examples of what that breakdown kind of looks like. So if we take the first one for transportation, that's the sector. The primary objective in this case for the top one is cleaner transportation. And how might we achieve that? What actions might we take? We'd be looking at increasing electric vehicle use or expanding charging infrastructure, reducing reliance on single occupancy vehicle trips, in other words, carpooling. And then you can see various different examples all the way down for each of those, and that's included in the staff report as well. So what types of policies are there, and what will we be looking at to developing? Well, there's a number of different ones, and it can be a standalone or it can be a blend of these as well. But the first is education and marketing materials, and this increases awareness and knowledge for the community. This is done through marketing efforts as well as technical assistance or informationals. We'll also be looking at partnerships. This is coordinated efforts with the cities as well as our collaborating parties such as the school district. So if we're supporting them in their school bus operations or supporting corporate van shares for our business partners. Then there's incentives, and these are tools to help promote voluntary behavior change. A lot of these are seen in subsidies, opportunities for permit streamlining in some cases, as well as recognition. Another one is regulation. This is to enforce required behavioral change, and this is what typically looks like for ordinances or rules. Then we have investment funding, and this is to secure allocated financial resources to implement the cap, including pursuing grant funding and our ability to do so. And then lastly are infrastructure actions, and these might be upgrades to our existing infrastructure or also installing new infrastructure in order to help achieve our goals in that. So lastly, when we're looking at policy development, we're looking at what type of, how much stringent is this policy? Is it a prescriptive policy or is it a more flexible policy? And so a more prescriptive policy would establish clear goals, and those are typically done through ordinances or policies. And then you have more flexible policies, which can be done through incentives, voluntary programs, partnerships, and education. And this slide is just meant to say, you know, depending on what type of policy it is, some have different impacts and requirements than others. But at the end of the day, no matter what our policies are, by having a cap, we are in a much better position for grants and obtaining grant funding and being competitive when it comes to grants. So what are the next steps after this? Well, we're in the process of drafting the CAP objectives and strategy. So those are the policies and goals and actions that we'll be looking at. Once those are drafted, those draft action items will be vetted and reviewed by our internal stakeholder group. Those are our internal city groups, to just make sure that those are feasible and implementable, and if not, what needs to happen in order to make them feasible and implementable. Once that's done, the draft policies will be presented at a public workshop. We're anticipating spring for that. And then we'll have additional opportunities for public to comment and review those prior to council review and consideration, which we're anticipating for the end of summer. So that completes staff's presentation. Staff and the consultant are available to answer any questions.
Council? Councilmember Reynolds? Can't see your light, but I think you have it on.
Oh,
Go ahead. All right.
I can go
Go
first. Yeah. Okay, big picture, high level. So next up sounded like, is this public workshop in the spring? Do we have a better estimate of, is that March, April, May?
April.
April.
Yes.
Oh, Earth Day, Earth Month. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, good. Thank you. So a couple months leading up to that. Can you go describe a little bit more? I know my colleagues are probably on edge knowing that I would have lots of detailed comments, and I want to avoid that tonight for everyone's sake. What are the next steps in terms of getting information on how would you recommend prioritizing some of these? Obviously, there's some we might say, this is my favorite, I don't want this. But otherwise, right, these are all going to have different impacts in terms of the various goals, different costs, and so on. So can you just describe that process and what kind of information might be available when we do have the public workshop?
Yes, I'll be happy to start, and then we'll have Jennifer jump in for DUDEC too for any follow-up. So first, we're going to be looking at what are the items that are going to have the biggest impact, right, and seeing, what are the cost implications of those, but that have the biggest bang for our buck, basically, so to say, on there. And then also our ability to implement those will be another one. So things that might be really easy to do and are really cost effective, it's great to hit the ground running with those, but those that are a big investment that we know we're going to have to look for other ways to achieve them, we'll have to identify what those next steps are to achieve those items. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Council Member Reynolds. That's a wonderful question. So for the CAP, we are looking at 2 milestones. We have a 2030 milestone, which is we likely consider near term, and a 2045 milestone. Now, to achieve our goals, we're going to have to do a lot, but we understand that staff has limited resources. So part of after we develop the actions, we will have a phasing. So we can look at things that you're doing now that you will continue to do. We want to recognize that. We want to make sure that the CAP supports and builds momentum on those. The other ones that are really big priorities are ones we like to call foundational or unlocking, and these are ones that you have to do first before you can do the next thing. So a lot of the near-term focuses will be on things that unlock the potential to do more. The other focus in the near term is getting in motion things that will make the biggest impact for the city. So some actions more than others result in larger greenhouse gas reductions or a real near-term benefit to prepare the community for climate hazards. And those are things that we would recommend staff to be doing in their first year, like your first best next steps. Now, looking in the future, there are some actions that maybe need more funding, technological considerations for those. Those ones we may put off to post 2030 if they're not needed to meet your goals for 2030, and we will identify those as a later phase just so staff can use their resources in the most effective manner.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that's helpful. I'm curious if there's, because you've sort of generally completed the inventory data collection phase to build these models to do the estimates. Were there any pieces of data that you couldn't find that you wish you had or would normally have? I'm just curious what the big data gaps, if there were any. There's always some.
I like that question as well. Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds. We're all kind of data nerds over here. With CAPS, we always do our best, and staff spent a lot of time collecting the data. Now, there are going to be some things that you have to scale, make your best estimate for, but we spent a lot of resources refining our what we call vehicle miles traveled. That's VMT. That's it's one of the two biggest pieces in estimating emissions from your transportation sector is how much vehicle miles are traveled. And then, of course, it's the intensity factor of the activity is another big piece. And that's pretty much the same for a lot of the sources. And that can change over time. So one thing to know about inventories is they do change over time and not necessarily because of the activity, it could be the intensity. But it's good to understand both of those variables because we craft our actions to address both. So, for example, you can reduce vehicle miles traveled, but you also can electrify vehicles. So it's good to look at both those inputs. I will say that in comparison to other inventories out there, especially in the local ones, we didn't have any critical data gaps, nothing that we couldn't resolve. And so we feel very confident that this inventory followed best practices, existing protocols, and we had the correct data to support it. And I would note that the inventory results are very similar to other cities in Orange County as well as cities in California in general. So there was no surprises there.
Thank you. That's good to hear. I didn't mean to hit the motion button. Okay. And then bills. So as I was reading through some of the strategies here, like we know there's lots of active bills in the state that might be doing the same thing, restricting from doing the same thing, or I'm assuming there's coordination with Mr. Berkman and following that, so we know like let's not craft an ordinance for something that like might become a law anyways. Is that coordination happening?
Yes, we've been in speaking with Jay. He's been very helpful in that, as well as in looking for grant opportunities for us as well.
Okay, good. I'm gonna just send like detail, unless you want me to go through it now, I'll send detailed comments on things. But at a high level, there were a couple times in the staff report where, we note that we want to make sure policy directions are sort of aligned with existing general plans and existing city policies. And I just want to, I think I understand what you mean, but I want to make sure that I say out loud that I don't want, if there's existing policy that constrains a recommendation you might have in terms of climate action goals, let's talk about it. Don't say, oops, because this code is here that was put in 25 years ago, right? It's still part of our general plan. We can't do those things. So I just want to be very, very clear about that. Like, don't let our existing codes hold us back from good recommendations because we have lots of parallel efforts where we're trying to modernize and update our codes. Okay, I know you know that. I had to say it out loud because it happens. In terms of the recommendations, in organizing them, I think it would be helpful to indicate whether it's segregating them all together, but just indicate which of the different recommendations are for like municipal operations, things that are on us as City Hall and totally in our power at City Hall versus incentives or requirements or things that would affect the public. I think that separation would be
Hold on.
helpful.
Councilmember, so maybe we're like way beyond this, but
Oh, I know. It was a receiving file, so I was giving comments. Okay.
I know.
stop.
Can we do the question? I just want to be respectful of
Yeah.
public hearing and stuff like that. So, do you have any more questions?
No.
Okay. So, do we have any other questions? Councilmember Marr.
I didn't see this in the staff report. Was this like where did this come from?
Answer that. It's part of some of the visual aids from public outreach efforts that we've done that we had, so it was not included in the staff report. It was just meant as part of the verbal report.
Got it. Okay. So have you already published what the current baseline is then for carbon emissions? Is that something we can see? Not tonight.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Marr. Right now, we have a draft or a preliminary inventory and forecasting that is subject to change. We are refining some of our inputs, specifically vehicle miles traveled. So while we have preliminary, it is subject to change. That final will be part of the draft cap plan for the community to review. It is a little technically in the weeds, so it ends up in an appendix, but it is available to help. And that's why that visual is put together, because it kind of takes all the concepts and puts it together.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And then what is our line? What is the baseline 2025?
Thank you, Councilmember Mar. Our baseline is 2023.
Okay.
We picked
Because
that.
you have to look backwards to find good data.
Right. The 2024 and 2025 was not available at the time, so we used the best available data.
Okay. So are we retroactively gonna take credit for bike lanes we've opened in the last year then?
That's a really good question. I hope to not go too far into the weeds with this. You usually have two options to take credit for things that happen in tandem. One option is to take it into account in your forecasted emissions as a discount. The other option, which is usually more likely, is to include it as an action and then take credit for that. And that way, it really highlights the importance of it, and it keeps it on staff's target to ensure that it's implemented and you build from it. So that's usually what we would recommend.
Okay. I mean, for those of you who can't read my mind, like part of where I'm going with this is like, we're already doing a lot of things that have a climate impact. It would be interesting to put them in context as you think about what those action items are. I mean, if the thing that we are doing, i.e. building a lot more bike lanes, is having a noticeable impact on total vehicle miles traveled across the city, then that's a good signal for us as policymakers to kind of double down on some of the things that we're already doing, as opposed to Councilmember Reynolds' point, like creating a brand new policy or trying to revise something that's been on the books for 25 years. Like, there's a lot that I think we are already doing that is very much in line with the overall goals of what we're trying to accomplish here, that I want to make sure like makes it into the plan and that we kind of get credit for, and that we are able to share with the public that we're already making a dent.
Right. So one of our first steps was a comprehensive review of all the existing and relevant policies related to climate mitigation and adaptation. And our goal is to build off the great efforts from the city and highlight that. You'll see many actions that will say continue to or build on or move forward. Again, so they're highlighted and they're accounted for. The CAP really brings together a lot of the actions that you're currently doing and puts it into one framework for quicker and more efficient coordination and a clearer direction on the path moving forward.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you.
I had a couple questions. I'm trying to remember the second one. So the first one was, I don't know if you were here for my summary of the mayor's conference, but in terms of the climate and grants, it looks pretty bleak at the federal level. Would you agree? Yeah, under this current administration, not as good as the past administration. So what about the state level? Are we still humming along on the state level? I know we've had some budgetary issues that Sacramento is dealing with, but at least philosophically, is Sacramento still behind providing grant funding for implementation of these programs?
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. I would agree that at the federal level, those grants are more limited than before. The CAP has such a long horizon, things could change, and that's why the CAP is a living document, and you always keep track of those when they do have opportunities. The state has not shown signs that they are, giving up on addressing climate change. Their scoping plan is very strong, and while funding at the state level may have diminished a little bit, especially if it was tied to federal funding, there still are some grants available.
Okay. Well, I can't remember my second question, so it must not have been a very good one, so that's good. All right, let's open it up to the
Can
public.
Mary, I just
Oh,
want
you have
to
another
chime in,
question?
just as an example, you know, that Andrea and I work in this space. I'll actually be up in Sacramento on Monday, talking on this very issue with folks. But I know that there's a lot of discussion in Sacramento on energy stuff. But, you know, so a lot of the posturing is actually how do, you know, recognizing the critical importance of climate attention because of the wildfire risk, because of the health risk and all of these things, how do we adjust in response to this, you know, huge steps back at the federal level? So California, in some ways, is actually stepping forward. For example, it was just announced today, I think, California is going to kind of supplement some of the tax incentives on electric vehicles that were rescinded by the federal government. So just an example, there's a lot of activity and opportunity still through the state.
That's good. That's good. Okay. I've got another question. I'm not sure if it was my second one, and it's definitely not as good as my first one, but not that that was even that good. But remember when I was talking about how there's certain policies, I mentioned DEI and obviously immigration and some of the LGBTQ stuff that jeopardizes federal grants. You know, and I hate to ask this question, but I'm interested just for information. Is this CAP program something that might jeopardize federal grants in other areas? Anybody can answer that question. I hope the answer is no.
We haven't heard anything for the cap portion.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you for answering the question. Let's open it up for the public. All right, there you have it. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Craig, please.
Greg, you have the floor.
Hello, Mayor Stevens and Vice Mayor Chavez and Council Craig Preston, member resident of Costa Mesa since 2007. I'm very passionate about climate change and studying it daily. And I know it's an invisible problem in some ways, that this atmosphere is warming and it warms the whole planet. So it seems like, oh, that's a problem somewhere else. But we know we need everybody to pitch in. And I'll just speak to how Ronald Reagan years ago recognized that the ozone layer was a problem. Now we're putting all this sunscreen all over ourselves, and yet he recognized we needed a worldwide solution. And it was the largest international treaty ever to lower the ozone problem, so that we now have a healing ozone problem. I'm hoping Costa Mesa will join, as the mayors probably had a lot of enthusiasm where you went, Mayor Stevens, to act big. And I'm hoping you'll go big and that we'll have a measurable cap that will actually have some teeth to it, that will show that we are serious. We want to be a good example to the other cities of Orange County, as well as the state and the federal and the world. So thank you for taking this up. I know tonight's not necessarily a big vote on it, but it's a big move towards having the staff present this. And there's work involved, but I just want you to know, as a resident, I'm very excited about this and hoping that our young people will recognize that we, the adults, are taking this seriously and want to provide a future that will be thriving for them. Thank you for your efforts. I just want to mention one thing about those fires that hit a year ago. They were very expensive, $250 billion. The insurance companies know that the risks are going way up, and so they left and they stopped insuring a lot of people. And so they know there's a problem with climate change, and I think we should recognize it too. And the more we can do, the quicker, the better. Thanks for taking this up.
Thank you, Craig.
No further speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comments. Now, we don't have any motion. We're going to make probably a motion to receive and file, but this is a time for council to share their feedback with the consultant and staff. So, Councilmember Reynolds, I cut you off. Did you want to finish your thought on that you were talking about before?
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna stay at a high level, and I'll share some details by email. One of the things I want to make sure that we're including the fire hazard severity zone map that was put into place this year. One thing that's also come up recently was a recognition that we do actually have forget the technical term, but AQMD, like watch zones over on the west side, an air quality issue, and I like to consider that being included. I think there's a place for it to fit in. In general, as I was reading the list of potential policies, in general, you know, I would lean towards, for municipal actions, really trying to do not necessarily everything we can, but basically all cost-effective actions, just incorporating that into our normal processes in terms of, you know, businesses and residents and non-municipal operations. I would tend to lean towards really trying to create an environment that encourages the actions we want to see, as opposed to mandates. You know, as an example, you know, we're not forcing people to get on bikes, right? We're creating bike lanes, and the better infrastructure we get, we're seeing more and more people ride. So that's my sort of posture in general in terms of the kind of the policy development. I didn't see electrifying our fleet on there, so I think there's a place to fit that in. Also in Table 1, there's maybe a whole other category related to just people and workforce. I saw that acknowledged in the staff report, but there may be policies related to sort of, you know, training and supporting training programs to support the workforce to support the policies that we want. So I think the people aspect needs to be here as well. I think that's it at a high level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'll just say, I agree with Councilmember Marr's sort of assertions earlier that we've been doing a lot of this stuff already, and we've been doing it intentionally for many benefits, but because we know these are part of the practices, and so we should get credit.
Yeah, and just to reiterate on that one, we have been working really closely with the transportation manager, Paul Martin, in all of his efforts and making sure that that's included, particularly on the VMT analysis. And so you'll see that when we're actually have some draft policies.
Yeah, one other thing, the Climate Action Campaign, and I'll send you this email, has a really nice, they've done a Climate Action Plan scorecard. If you're not familiar with it, but they actually have a scoring rubric that I thought was really thoughtful. It's based on their analysis of how do you make sure that these climate action plans are effective and not just another plan on a piece of paper. So yeah, looking at that and setting up our plans so that it would get a high score, not for the purpose of high score, but because that's based on being effective. Thank you.
So I look at it kind of in two ways, right? So there's the stuff that we do, the city municipal stuff, and then there's stuff that the private sector does and that we can influence. And so as to the stuff that we do, I agree with Councilmember Marr and Councilmember Reynolds that for years it seems like forever I've been voting on things that promote good responsible climate decisions, anything from, building a project, a facility to a LEED Gold standard to, improving the tree canopies. We're a tree city, to, Earth Day, to the EV charging stations at City Hall. We've got 9 charging stations, to the way that the fire training facility is built to recapture water, and I think that other agencies are doing that as well. The solar panels in the schools, local agencies, some of the things that the sanitary district is doing, both voluntarily and mandatory, and then Mesa Water's reclamation, things that they're doing, and then we talk about those things frequently at our meetings. Also, all of the bike lanes, everything we've done to try to get people out of their cars and into bikes and e-bikes and things like that. So I think that we should continue to do all that stuff and really go hard on that, right? I mean, that I think is full steam ahead. We could probably even do more of it within our budgetary constraints, which are more substantial lately. As to the private sector, I'm more of an incentive guy. Right, I think that while climate change is very important and everything like that. So is our tax base, and so is not to put too many undue mandates on our local businesses that we rely on to do all the stuff that I just mentioned. So when I was asked to talk about this topic, believe it or not, I talked about it. I don't know. Maybe Councilmember Reynolds and Mar were busy that day, and I got dragged up to the county and talked about it. I remember Salem told me about the green business program that we have for incentives, and that was, not every city has that. So I think that's a good thing that we do, and we should continue to do that. So I'm more of an incentive rather than a mandate person. If you're looking at those two columns, count me in on the incentives. Okay? That's it. That's all I got. Anybody else? All right, let's just make a motion to receive and file. I can do that. I haven't made a motion today. Seconded by Councilmember Mar. Let's call for the question.
Mayor Stevens, please.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I voted.
Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. That was very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, good stuff. All right, let's do our last item. New business item number 3. Madam Clerk, can you please read the title?
Thank you. This is approval of a code of ethics and conduct, and presentation by Ms. Hall Barlow, City Attorney.
Ms. Hall Barlow, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, we previously considered potential adoption of a code of ethics. When I say we, I mean you. On July the 8th, we had presented to you several models or examples of ethics, including the city of Gardena and the city of Irvine. There was considerable discussion about what such a code of conduct should include. And thank goodness the city clerk took very copious notes, which we reviewed. And what we did was we sort of set it up like the Gardena Code because its structure seemed to be a good one. And that was sort of our basis. We added several provisions that were specifically requested from the Irvine Code, modifying them as appropriate for Costa Mesa. The objectives of the code would be to ensure public confidence in the integrity of the local government and its elected and appointed officials. It would establish an ethics code to promote honest, effective, and accountable, city government, encouraging high standards of behavior by public officials and assisting with decision-making. And the intent would be to achieve fair, ethical, and accountable local government for the city of Costa Mesa. There are key components of the proposed code of ethics and conduct summarized here. Act in the public interest, comply with the law, how members should conduct themselves, respecting the process, conduct of public meetings, decisions being based on merit, communication, conflicts of interest, gifts and favors, confidential information, typically from closed session, use of public resources, representation of private interests, advocacy, the policy role of members, independence of boards, commissions, and committees, positive workplace environment, implementation, compliance and enforcement, and statement of commitment. The proposed code of ethics that we have presented to you would include some key items like prohibiting paid lobbying, and I've included some of the definition for you on behalf of clients before any other agencies in Orange or Los Angeles County. It would prohibit any commissioner or council member or member of the executive staff, which are defined as covered positions, from having financial interest in any contract with the city. The proposed code does go beyond existing state laws on some financial and other conflicts. It emphasizes the policy role of council and commissions versus the administrative functions of the city manager and subordinate employees. It addresses relations between council and commission members with staff, the public, and each other, particularly requiring civility and professionalism in communications and dealings, especially during public meetings. It also includes provisions regarding reporting, investigation, and enforcement mechanisms. I was asked to include in the report, and I did, some specific information relating to existing state and local laws. And as I pointed out in the agenda report, many of the portions of the Code of Conduct are addressed by existing laws, which are found in various constitutional provisions, case law, statutory provisions, both federal, state, and local. They are not collected in one place anywhere. So that would be one benefit of having some specific code here, is it would be one place where somebody could look. But the primary things that are in the Code of Conduct, which are not currently addressed by either state, local, or federal law, have to do with civility, professionalism, and communications between staff, the public, and elected and appointed officials. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'm struggling with the punctuation in 7A. Because of their uniquely important, visible, and elevated status and responsibilities, the mayor and members of the city council shall not engage in compensated employment or service for the purpose of lobbying for any private person or organization before any local public agency. So is it compensated employment or service? Is lobbying the point, or is compensated employment the point? Is it only if you're compensated and it's considered employment and you're lobbying?
It's compensated lobbying, essentially. So if whether it's for your, this particular provision, I believe, came from the Irvine Code, but it was extended from just Orange County to Orange and Los Angeles County. The lobbying would be, arguing on behalf of someone else for compensation. It happens, whether it's in employment or under a contract, I would treat that as the very same thing. So the point is lobbying for money. If, in other words, it would allow someone to lobby if they weren't.
What if I just
getting
wanted to get
paid for
hired
it?
as the public works director of Orange County? Would I be allowed to be doing that? It's compensated employment, but it's not lobbying.
Well, it
Can I
depends
go
on-
work for one of these agencies as a consultant?
You could, at least under existing law, because you would be doing their work. You wouldn't be lobbying on behalf of anyone.
Okay. So do we need compensated employment in that? In my mind, these are two separate things, right? Like, are we ruling out that you can be compensated for employment by another agency in Orange County? Or are we ruling out the lobbying portion of it? In my mind, they're different, and we can have a discussion about whether they should or should not both be included.
Yeah, we can certainly make that clear.
Okay.
I think the point was not that you would be prohibited from working for another public agency, but that you would be prohibited from lobbying other public agencies as being paid for doing that, whether it's for a private or a public employer or anyone else.
Okay, and so the 7, I think all of 7 applies to when we are serving in this capacity. And then if I get down to 11B, after I leave office. now we're just talking about formal versus formal or informal appearances. We drop the reference to lobbying here, and we limit this to just the city of Costa Mesa.
Yes, and that is, that language is actually taken from the California Government Code.
Okay, so, all right. So why limit it to lobbying in 7, but in 11, call it formal or informal appearances?
We took what we had and I mean, it's something of a Frankenstein's monster, frankly, when you take a bunch of different codes and you try to put them together with the comments. We did the best we could.
Okay.
But if you wanted to, it would be very easy to have one definition that would apply to both sections.
All right, thank you. So back to 7B. Interest in city contracts. Individuals in covered positions shall not have a personal investment or monetary interest in any contract made by the city. Your answer is probably going to be the same on like contract, but that in my mind is different than potentially influencing cities for which there is, decisions for which there is not necessarily a city contract. I'm thinking about planning decisions, for example, right? Like we have applicants come before us, we don't necessarily sign a contract with them.
Yes, but I think paragraph 7A2 would cover that. That's the point. If what you're concerned about is that paragraph 7A doesn't include Costa Mesa, it does. It would be any local agency, including Costa Mesa.
No. I'm arguing with the interest in city contracts. So defining our personal investment or monetary interest as being limited to only something that for which there's a contract with the city. I think there's plenty of scenarios I can think of where we would have a personal interest or a monetary interest, personal investment or monetary interest when there wasn't necessarily a contract with the city, like in a planning decision, for example.
That would be covered already by the Political Reform Act. But if it's a license, entitlement, anything like that, that's covered by the Political Reform Act. So it would preclude a council member, commissioner, or executive staff who are obligated to report from having any reportable financial interest that would be affected by those decisions. So it's generally speaking, it would not be legislative decisions, but instead it would be decisions like on a CUP, a license, a lot line, decisions affecting real property within 500 or 1,000 feet of yours, that type of thing.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to continue this item to the next meeting. I feel like I've got a bunch of suggested changes. This is probably not the right forum to do them. I'd rather work directly with the city attorney on some of my proposed revisions.
Second.
I would support that.
Wait. Everybody chill. Chill out here. Okay, let's start with, do we have any questions? More questions. You'll get it. That was the motion I was going to make, so you'll get your chance. Does any more questions?
Let me, I am going to ask this question because it's a similar to what Councilmember Ra was just asking, and I want to try to sort it out, but I also support the idea of continuing. So I'm trying to also tease out this in 7A in 1, what the restrictions would be for different lobbying activity. For example, I just shared that I go to Sacramento and support bills and not. But that's as an in-house employee, and it's a part of my job. I want to make sure that wouldn't conflict. Yes. So I guess I'll just go through scenarios. I mean, we go up with ACCOC, for example, and are specifically supporting different bills. We're signing different bills I guess that's with a council member hat on, but with my professional work hat on, I might be going to Sacramento with other colleagues, talking to legislators about pros and cons of different bills, encouraging them to support or oppose a bill. Is that considered?
I would not conclude that this language would preclude anybody from engaging in lobbying for legislation in Sacramento.
Okay, at AQMD.
That is a local agency that would, that has an office in Los Angeles County and therefore would be covered by this.
Okay, meaning prohibited.
It would be prohibited unless you were lobbying on behalf of your employer as opposed to a client of your employer.
Okay, and so that's the key difference then. I'm doing it as part of my regular employment. I'm not getting hired to lobby on behalf of another individual or organization.
Correct.
Okay. And then I see the language includes our executive assistants. Do we? I don't think I have one. That we should strike that, right?
You all have one.
Well,
you have one.
As an employee of the city.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
because
not.
this covers commissioners and basically the executive team.
Yeah.
We all have executive assistants, so it would cover them as well. I can strike that if you like.
Okay. It seems odd. I know, I think if this language came from Irvine, I think those council members do get their own staff, so it's a little bit different. We're not selecting those folks, so my understanding is you didn't put this in here intentionally. This is language copied from Irvine, right?
Yeah,
we just understand why it's there.
We did our best to try and take out what was inapplicable, but
yeah. Okay. So then, a similar question, a commissioner, for example, as we know, we have an active, wonderful, active community that's doing advocacy at all levels. We know that rules that CTA makes impact our work, right? So if a commissioner, for example, is advocating for certain actions at OCTA, for example, they can do that on their own. They can do that if it's part of their normal employment, but they couldn't do that if they're hired by an individual organization to do that.
Correct.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, let's open up for public comment. I don't, does anybody want to speak in the chambers? Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Cynthia, please.
Cynthia, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Well, I'm so glad to see this policy document before the council. Many of us in the community have been requesting a clear and comprehensive ethics policy for well over a decade. So at its core, the purpose of an ethics code is to ensure that residents can have confidence in the integrity and transparency in their local government. Costa Mesa deserves to know that city officials are working toward the common good, acting above reproach, and avoiding even the hint of impropriety. In reviewing ethics codes from other cities, several important elements appear to be missing from the proposed policy. One, a nepotism clause. Most cities prohibit the hiring or supervision of relatives to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure fairness in employment practices. Including such a clause would strengthen the public trust and protect both staff and the elected officials. Two, the disclosure of outside information in ex parte communications. Any relevant information received from outside sources regarding a matter before the council should be shared with all council members and the public. This includes meetings or communications with applicants, opponents, or any party with a personal or financial interest in an item, whether through emails, texts, direct messages, or other channels. The public has a right to know when decision makers are engaging in private communications related to city business, whether it involves development projects or city-led efforts such as the Fairview Park Master Plan update. 3, mandatory reporting of corruption or misconduct. The policy should require officials and employees to report suspected corruption to appropriate authorities immediately upon discovering it. Once an investigation concludes, the findings, which are paid for with public funds, should be disclosed in a timely manner. For example, the investigation initiated by the former city manager has never been publicly released, despite taxpayer funding. Residents deserve transparency in these matters. Finally, I encourage the City Council to readopt the ethics policy and code of conduct annually at its first meeting of the year. Doing so would demonstrate an ongoing commitment to honesty, transparency, and adherence to the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay?
Wait, we have another speaker.
No, hold on. We're going to go with Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Good evening, Council. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. Thank you. I'm glad to see the Code of Ethics has finally come to some fruition at some point, and I appreciate it's a good start. It's an excellent start, and thank you for that. I would add a couple of things. The most important to me is actually what Andrea Marr brought up, and that's actually where do we actually start talking about what's compensation and everything. Remember that everything you vote on usually had a life of longer than a year. The coffee shop, the cafe, you made the comment, Mr. Mayor, about how long it's taken to get there. So from the moment of its inception till the time it happens, you need to think about that kind of a thing. So a contract, very few of our contracts are a month. They don't even come to fruition for a year after we go through everything. The same thing with a development of some sort in the city. And I would ask that you add to the ethics code an admonition to not vote on any item that you've received a contribution from anybody with a vested interest in anything to do with that issue for some amount of time, but for your entire time on council. Not because a year is a reasonable time, but because the things you actually vote on are much older than a year before it even gets to you. So that's an important issue from the time you get elected. And you can set an amount that's reasonable. $1,000 says that nobody's going to get quote unquote bought for $1,000. You can set a thing which avoids any issue about impropriety. So I'd look to ask you to add that to this issue to help make sure that the public sees the city as taking action to say, hey, we recognize that long-term things have a way of living with us, and I think it's important that we don't have that happen to us. So I appreciate the fact this has come forward. I would like you to add those things. And it's a working document like the plan we just talked about. If it only sits on the shelf and nobody pays attention to it, so what? So I appreciate that fact. I expect that over time there will be changes, and those changes will be forthright and for the public good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Craig, please.
Craig.
Yes, Mayor Stevens, Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, and City Council, thank you for doing this. I'm aware that the county has an ethics commission as like a city citizen action commission, and I was going to volunteer to be on it. I've been working on becoming part of the commissions here in the city, and glad to see this being picked up and moved forward. I want to say that even tonight, it was honorable, I think, that one of the members recused themselves on something that their wife would be involved with. I'm glad to see that it's a very honorable thing to recuse yourself when you realize that, and not make a vote where it could look like a bias or you just have a bias. So I think our federal government at points where the cabinet members or the Supreme Court gets themselves in trouble when they have made actions and they haven't put a ethics policy on themselves. And so it would do a lot of good here in the city, I think, for us to be a good example to people all across the country that this is a great thing to have. And I like the idea of where Cynthia McDonald said, even if it's annual, first thing up front, it gets reaffirmed that the city council is aware of these things. Sunlight is a wonderful thing for transparency, and that we, the people, then have greater trust in our elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Right, close public comment. You want to make your motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll move to continue this item to the second meeting in February.
Okay, can we do a friendly amendment? I'm going to need more time, I think. I agree with you that we need more time, but I've got a lot of comments. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get all of them in and get them in a place where, like, maybe we were busy and really busy on March 3rd. So I was thinking the second meeting of March.
Look, it's taken us 7 months to get here. I don't want to keep punting this.
Well, you don't have to accept my friendly amendment.
We do get the agenda out a week before the scheduled date, so if it was moved to the 17th, that would give us a week from today.
It's not enough time for me.
March 17th.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
March 17th, but I would encourage council members to get any of their comments to staff in the next 2 weeks so that you have time to actually deal with it. So that by February 17th, council members, please get your comments in.
Okay.
And can this item be early in the agenda? It would be, right?
What's that?
Put the item early in the agenda.
It'll be old business,
Yeah,
so
okay.
it'll be earlier in the agenda.
Old business, so it'll be earlier in the meeting? Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I mean, I do. I think that some of the things that the public mentioned are particularly important, and I appreciate. I think the thing that I would tack on is this is not. There's a balancing act in my mind between prohibiting all of these things and disclosing them for the public. I think Cynthia McDonald covered this pretty well. I have no problem with some of these things happening. I just want them to be public and disclosed and transparent about what is going on. And so I think, that's one of the things that I'd like to try to strike a balance in. Two, I do think the definition of lobbying is a little confusing and comes loaded with other things about registering as a lobbyist, et cetera. And so I think we need to clean that up. Three, the city of San Diego actually provides examples in their ethics ordinance of ways in which the ordinance would be violated. For example, you leave council and you go to work for a developer that had something pending with the development department for the last 2 years. Is that okay or not, right? And so we were talking about tabletop exercises earlier tonight. I think providing some examples of what it is that we're trying to get at might be a helpful way of solidifying this conversation. And then the last thing I had, I think we've done a lot to, in some ways, make council more accessible for people to participate in. This was part of the conversation around pay and benefits and other things. With that comes the fact that most of us are working full-time, and most of us will leave council and continue to work full-time. And that has its own implications that we probably haven't had to wrestle with quite as much with past councils. So we need to address that head on. But thanks, I appreciate my colleagues supporting giving us more time on this.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Nothing to add.
So, is anybody else?
If I may, Mayor, just because I know, looking here, you have some good comments. I know you've come prepared. I think I just want to follow up on Councilmember Marr's point, because I do think this has the potential to really impact me the most, because I'm the youngest, and I did join council in my early 20s. I would just like clarity on what necessarily constitutes us leveraging this role for our future employment, because I think it's very safe to say most of my opportunities have come because folks know I'm a council member, because I'm 23 years old, and before I got on city council I was a salesman. So that to me is very interesting thing to consider and talk about. Also the mechanism how we would even enforce someone who leaves the city Costa Mesa doing that. One of the things that's unique for me is I'm also on a lot of boards. And I do my best to always recruit myself from set of boards anytime something comes up on that body that ties to Costa Mesa and vice versa. If ever there's an item that conflicts with me on a board, I might step out, like I've done a couple times on OCTA, and I will cover that for the county office of Supervisor Foley. So I think that clarity for me would be very important. And I think just, again, if we're trying to daylight and sunlight connections, that probably be more accurate and appropriate than I think trying to limit, especially for folks that are leaving the city. But again, I'm very open to see this conversation develops, but I want to put those things out there because we do have younger commissioners, we do have younger people getting involved in city governance, and I think it'd be really sad for us to damage anyone for their whole lives because we have a very strict policy that may not be helpful to a young person.
Okay, so I don't have a ton of comments. I support the motion. I think every council member should receive a Word version of this, so we can have a series of comments and compare rights and red lines that we can include and then share with one another for who made the comments and things of that nature. 7A is
Sorry, you mean share with me?
share
or-
with you and then
And then publicly when we
then
come in?
publicly
Okay.
share it. Where is it coming from? But 7A is a deal breaker for me. If it's in, I'm not going to vote for it in this because it basically, somebody like Jeff Harlan, who I think has been was a really good council member and is chairman of our planning commission, would have to resign the next day. This is what he does for a living. And so you don't have to comment on that. That's what he does for a living, okay? I've sued cities, right? There's no reason why I can't sue cities. I sued Buena Park, and in suing a city or defending a case for one of my clients that's brought by a city, there is what you would consider lobbying involved in that, right? There's absolutely no reason, if it's not Costa Mesa, why I shouldn't be free to do that. Or, by the way, it's not me. We're legislating for not just us, but legislating for councils, committee members, commissioners in the future. There's a number of other things. I think one of my comments is going to be, I think the idea of, you called it the Frankenstein's monster, which kind of scares me because I'm kind of scared of Frankenstein. But the idea that we're going to take a bunch of state laws and a bunch of federal laws and then a bunch of language that is neither in state nor federal law, and we're going to cobble it into a code of ethics, I don't think is the best way to do it. So, preview of coming attractions. What I think would be better is to have a whole series of references to the law that covers it with an attachment that has the law, the statute, and any guidance, right? But not to paraphrase or try to cover it in a code because it's not. What if we get it wrong? What prevails? We know that the state law prevails. So why put something in a code? Why put something in a code of conduct that is superseded by a state law or even a municipal code? If some of this is covered by the municipal code and some of it clearly is, rather than rewrite or paraphrase or summarize the municipal code in a separate code of conduct, reference the municipal code. And if we don't like the municipal code, unlike the state law or the federal law, whether it be the government code or the business and professions code or whatever, we have the ability to amend that code, okay? But I don't like the idea of creating, a kind of cobbled together code that attempts to paraphrase state law. And not in any particular complete way, just kind of like whatever state law fits into the sections that are included in this. And then it would also be quite clear, crystal clear, that what we're adding, what is our creation here, as a legislative body with this document. That has to be crystal clear, as opposed to items that have already been legislated that we're referring to. These are all the things that I'm going to say, and I need to have these. I mean, these are my needs, not my wants, okay? The other thing that is more of a nit, but you know, in some places we appear to include committees, in some places we don't. In some places we use this defined term, covered positions. In other places we say, I think it's elected and appointed officials. There's some definitional inconsistency throughout the document that needs to be cleaned up. So, I mean, this is a good start. It's a long way from being something that I would be willing to vote for, but you know, I think it's a worthy effort. I'm pro-ethics. I'm in favor of ethics, and I'm pro-good conduct. But this document needs a lot of work, and I can't commit, you know, depending on what happens, how I'm going to vote on St. Patrick's Day, other than the comment I made about 7A. Okay? We're ready to call for the question?
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, we're done with our business. So let's adjourn the meeting in honor and memory of Tony Pecca, a Costa Mesa resident, former firefighter in Anaheim, and the uncle of a friend of mine. So may he rest in peace.